Doing the pledge tonight. Good. Okay, Naomi and Michael, not Michael, Naomi and Martin, wrong M. Sorry. Are we at 6 o'clock? Are we ready?
Yes, we are, Mayor.
Yes, we are.
I will call what is the date? March 15th, 2022 special meeting of the Mill Creek City Council to order, and we'll begin with roll call as I do not see the pledge on the agenda. So Naomi, roll call, please.
Yes, Mayor Holtzclaw,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Vanel,
Here.
Councilmember Bond,
Here.
Councilmember Cavallari,
Here.
Councilmember Steckler,
Here.
Councilmember Allison,
Here.
Councilmember Duque.
Here.
Mayor, I don't know if it's out of turn, but I would prefer to do the pledge if we could, even though it's not on the roster.
If you'd like to lead it, let's do it.
Yes, sir.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a long, short agenda. Audience communication. Anyone like to speak to the council? Barb, the floor is yours. Yes, it should be, yes.
Pardon? Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. It's so awesome to be here in person, even though I still got the mask on. I do hope that one of the council's priorities for this retreat is to discuss the ARPA funds, in addition to productive discussions for setting the city manager priorities. I wish you best of luck, lots of progress, and a successful retreat. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Anyone else? There's no one else, member of the public here. Is there anyone? I'm not seeing anyone. Going once, twice, three times. Okay, we're going to jump right into it. Welcome. Is this a first in the city's history, a virtual retreat or a virtual hybrid retreat, I guess? So I'm just going to say a couple things. This has probably been a long time in the making. I'm trying to remember when we last did this. Was it 3 years ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
18 or
2019.
It's been a while. It's been long overdue. It's been a challenging couple of years with COVID and a bunch of curveballs that were thrown our way that I think kind of sidetracked us from looking forward, and we're just kind of trying to tread water. So we're here tonight to start looking forward, both for the coming year and for the next few years. We're in a transition as we look for a new permanent city manager. That shouldn't stop us from continuing to look forward and to plan. We're going to have some important discussions as a community in the course of the next year or two. It's important issues. We've had some as we dealt with the fire annexation over the last year. But I'm excited because I think we've got a lot of opportunities ahead of us. And I hope over the next 2 nights between tonight and next week, we will flesh some of those out. So I'm going to turn it over here now. Well, actually, before I turn it over to Stephanie, did you want to say anything as we get kicked off?
Oh, sure. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to add on to all the wonderful things the mayor just said, and just reiterate that it's really wonderful to be here tonight and for us to be able to come together and sit in the same room and kind of start to get on the same page as a team between the council and the leadership team here at the city, so that we can start to look forward and come up with our priorities together as a team. And I just want to reiterate that we're here to work together, and we have so many opportunities ahead of us. It has been a rough few years, and we have so much opportunity right now to come together and figure out where we want to take the city and what we want the city to look like in the future, and start to get our priorities in order ahead of hiring a new city manager. And so that that candidate, whoever they may be, will know where we stand and what we want to accomplish. And so I'm excited to have us all here tonight, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
The last bit of procedure, we've committed to go no longer than 9:30. If we get done sooner, we will get done sooner, but we will not go later. But let's take care of the motion to extend the regular meeting till 9:30, just so we don't have to interrupt our business mid-meeting. So if we could entertain that motion, please.
Motion to extend till 9:30.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I'm going to turn now to our facilitator, Mr. Ballard. Some of you may know him. I think John and Vince and Mark were on the council when he last worked with us 4 or 5 years ago. Andrew, I've done several retreats in other contexts with him. He is very good and is going to do a great job of keeping us on task and moving forward. And he is a resident of Mill Creek, so he's familiar with some of the issues and challenges that we'll be discussing. So with that, turn the floor over to you, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Brian. It is great to be back here and seeing some familiar faces. Yes, we did some great work together several years back, putting a communications plan together. I'm honored to be working with you all. And Brian is right. First of all, I want to ask my electeds, is it okay if I address you by your first name? Everybody okay? Okay, great. Thank you. You can address me by Mr. Bell. Okay, good. That's the way we want to start off. So I take all of you seriously. I take the staff, city directors seriously. I take this process seriously. I do not, however, take myself too seriously. So with that, what I'm going to do is just kind of go over the agenda very quickly. Just like Brian mentioned, we have a 2-day agenda, 3.5 hours today, or less, 3.5 hours on the 22nd. And by the way, if you love what I do, try to be. If you hate what I do, you can blame Brian. He's the guy that hired me. So no, we're gonna get through this in fine fashion. So we'll start out by doing kind of a get to know each other. This whole side of the room is brand new to me, although I've been in several meetings with Stephanie. I want to thank Stephanie, Brian for all of the legwork, and Martin for all the legwork they did in preparing for a successful 2 events. We're going to do a little get to know each other exercise. Then we'll actually officially begin our agenda by looking at our North Star, essentially the city vision and the city mission. And when I go through some best practices, it'll be clear why that's an important starting. And then we'll take a short break and then conclude the evening by doing a SWOT analysis. Situation analysis, SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I'll explain that exercise when I get to it. I'm just going to unpack each of those when we get to them, just so we don't have to remember them. So that's for today. Flip the agenda over on the 22nd. Everything we do tonight lays the foundation. 22nd. Everything is very linear and sequential. We'll begin our session next week by establishing the short set of council priorities for 2022. Then after the break, we'll take a little bit of a longer view and really establish the priorities that you all want city manager to have. And then we'll do our wrap up. I'm grateful that staff is here. They live, eat, sleep, and breathe this. By the way, I actually do this for 5 sessions. 100 for council and about 100 times for various departments. One of my clients for a decade now is human services for Palmer County. So those of you who know the county human services know that I've been reporting to MJ for many years. Great respect for that person. So, are there any questions about the agenda or what it is we will effort to use over the next 2 weeks? Great. Okay. So, I do want to talk about some guiding principles. I don't want you to feel special. I have this also. Talk just briefly about some planning best practices. I make no assumptions. I work with a lot of councils. We have 23 cities in use. But not making any assumptions on your background experience that are like staff in terms of So I'm just going to share some best practices. I've allocated more time than we need to get through this. I always have a little margin. So let me jump right into the guiding principles. This is where I don't want you to think that you're special or that I'm picking on you, because I have this slide at the beginning. Verify this, even for public, private, and nonprofit. We use the same slide so that we all can work together and make the goals. So all of you, and mostly focused on the electeds, but our directors will be participating and voting on the SWOT analysis. So if they live, eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff, and their insights are very important. So gone through the agenda. Everybody agrees with the agenda. I'm going to use that as kind of our North Star to get us through 2 days and get it all done. Also, the notion about participating. I encourage participation, and I discourage any individual, be it an elected or a staff person, conversation. And it's real simple as a facilitator. If I have 1 or 2 people that seem to be, kind of chatty, I ought to say, great, thanks. I'm going to move on to get somebody else's input. And if I see somebody else who just really hasn't contributed to the conversation, I'll draw you up. Say, Melissa, what do you think about that? So that's how I'm going to manage that. After doing this 500 times, I can tell you that I've screwed up just about every way possible. I also wrote a book on this, published 11 years ago. And I've been teaching this framework that we're going to be going through at the University of Washington School of Business. So participate, yes. Disagree versus disagree. The people pick up crazy. I actually encourage disagreement. Actually, what I encourage is civil discourse, right? My favorite quote is John F. Kennedy. He said, you have 10 people on a committee. They all see the issues. Exact same one. You have 19 people on that committee. You all produce better products with conversation. And that doesn't mean you all have to see things the exact same way. And that rarely happens. That's a good thing. What I don't tolerate, rarely do I have to stomp my feet all the time. Now, I actually have all the time. I was working with this. Not share the city or the council members. If I have something nice to say, I'll tell you about the city. I worked with the city on a communications plan. That's the other I've worked with. I think they're called the city of Milk Creek. Yeah, anyway, yeah, I do. My wife and I bought into a brand new development 13 years ago. We work here. We have a business here. We live here. We love it here. So happily spending fixed appearances. So I moved here. So anyway, yes, disagreeable is about tone, right? And rarely does it ever become. Okay, so those are your roles and responsibilities. Now on to me, I'm asking you all to give me the authority based on the agenda to use that to keep us on time and on topic. Will you please grant me that authority? Now, when I think, everybody's nodding. When I say authority, I'm not the boss here. I work for you, I work for Mark, I work for all of my friends. But I need the authority to keep this moving. So topics and times are stated as well as the times on the agenda. The agenda times are approximate. Some exercises will go a little shorter, some will go a little longer. I'm sure as heck not going to kibosh the rich conversation right in the middle, right? So, but I'm going to use it to keep us on. But I am committed to help get the entire agenda. The outcomes. This is usually an issue of larger retreats. We did a retreat with 32 people, not Zoom. But limit sidebars. We are talking strategic priorities. We're not going to get into the operational weeds. We have this talented staff, these directors. Their job is to attend to the operation. Your job is to step in strategic direction and policies to support. That. You are the policies and rules. Parking lot. you can see that. So there may be some ideas for issues and services that are off the agenda. And what I do is I want to honor those contributions. And I'll put them up there. By the way, I will be delivering Brian, Stephanie, and Mark a written report. Everything we do is going to end up in a report. And I will deliver that 3 business days after our retreat. So the point is.
Andrew, I'm sorry to interrupt. If you could use the handheld mic, it's really hard to hear you. I'm sorry.
Right,
'cause
you
we're
bet.
recording.
How's
Thank you
this?
so much. That's way better. Thank you. Thank you
My
so much.
pleasure. Thank you for letting me know.
Okay.
So I want to honor the contribution. I'm going to put it in the parking lot. It will end up in the report so it doesn't slip through the cracks. And then I'm going to get us right back on topic. I'm not as worried about today. The agenda for the 22nd may be a bit ambitious. We're going to get through it. There may need to be some next steps, maybe a few things get assigned. So that's the purpose of the parking lot. So again, pretty straightforward. I'm sure nothing up there is shocking anybody. But the planning session objectives, they're both on what we're going to do on the 22nd. And that is to set council priorities for 2022. And then to set the priorities to make sure that our new city manager actually has a guidance system so that she or he will, everybody will be swimming in the same direction. And those priorities leverage talent, your directors as we need them. We're going to ask them before we participate in the SWOT analysis. So just a few best practices. I told you I've made just about every mistake possible, although I usually find new ones to do. So just about building consensus. And this is a really easy slide for a democratic process. A consensus is not 100% agreement, right? If we efforted 100% agreement on everything that we wanted, we'd never get anything done. It's a general agreement where most like it or can live with it. I use a thumbs technique. So if we do get high centered, I'm going to ask for thumbs. Thumbs, I like it. That's up. Sideways, I can live with it. Thumbs down, I don't like it. So as long as the likes and the lives with it are, a clear majority, then we will continue. If it's kind of split or, 50-50 or whatever, we'll continue the conversation. We'll get through it. And what I use is the nominal group technique. I didn't make this up. It's a very popular process, but essentially it's, about identifying a problem or an opportunity. It's about solutions generation. And it is about effectively moving from discussion to decision, right? Because without a decision, we don't get anything done. Everybody's opinion is heard and equal. And then we'll vote to prioritize the top solutions, majority rules. That's pretty much Robert's rules. It's not anything crazy. So I did want to share this. The one thing that I do get pushback from my electeds once in a while is when I talk about putting a cap or a maximum on the number of strategic priorities. And usually a really good set, especially for something as short as 1 year, is we effort for 5. And the only pushback I get is, why would you want to limit it to 5? And the answer is strategic priorities are at a very high level. We're not talking about individual projects that would actually be in support of those. But this is, I've run the math and done this many times, but if we limit our 22 council priorities to like 5 big macro groups, you have to understand that each one of those will be supported on average by another 5 initiatives or projects. And then each of those, if they were only had, 5 moving parts, those 5 would generate 125 activities. So the idea is, well, does it hurt to add 1 more? Well, not if you want to add to your staff another 25 moving parts. The point is the growth is exponential. And that's kind of why I share that. But strategic planning is really a pretty simple process. So vision, we're going to go over your vision today. That's your North Star, right? The only difference, we're going to go through mission as well, but vision articulates your preferred future. It's the legacy you want to leave. Mission is a statement of purpose. It's present day. But essentially, our vision is what communicates where we want to be tomorrow. We're going to do a SWOT analysis. That defines where we are today. Strategic planning is just merely bridging the gap between where you are to where you want to be. And we're going to do that by you determining how we're going to get there with those strategic priorities. And so sometimes just a little simple model like that can really, and I use this mostly so people don't freak out when I say we're going to try to limit ourselves to 5 big priorities, because there'll be so much. And I know that Martin is not upset by this part of the conversation. I have never worked for a city, never once, where the staff didn't have enough to do. Never seen it. 97% of them are overworked and overwhelmed, right? You know that. It's that way in many corporate cultures as well. So that essentially completes the setup, or to prime our next 2 days. And we're going to move into hearing from all of you. And I'm going to ask staff to participate this as well. So I'm going to ask you to answer 5 questions. The first is, what neighborhood do you live in? How long have you lived in Mill Creek? And when we get to council, I'd really like to know your first year elected. I'd like to know, and I know Vince has been here many times. We bump into each other at Albertsons all the time. And he is a first responder and he has my respect. So anyway, that's the first question. Second question, just a little bit about your family, anything that you want to share. A little bit about your background, whether it's your education or professional background, it's up to you. What you like to do for fun. So when you're not in chambers and you're not your day gig, what is it you like to do? And also why you ran for office, or for our staff, why you chose to work for Mill Creek. So to our electeds, what led you to run for your council position? What was it that motivated that? And I want the staff to be able to share what motivated them to work. Mr. Todd can do both. So that's really it. Well, you were the council president when I did my last project. Yeah, no, I remember. Okay, so what I'm going to do, if it's okay, is I'm going to start with my electeds, and I'm going to pick on my the people that I've been working with for the last month. And then after our electeds, I'm going to leave those 5 questions. I'm going to ask you to just take 2 minutes. We got to kind of time things so we can get into our SWOT exercise, but take about 2 minutes so we can get to know you. Brian, I know that you know the questions. You actually made them. So I'm going to ask you to kick us off. Then I'll go to Stephanie.
Okay.
And then I'll just continue going clockwise around the council.
Gladly. It's hard to believe that we are in our 19th year of living in Mill Creek. We moved into Brighton on Halloween night on 2003, and we're unprepared for the 250 kids that we had come through our neighborhood on Halloween. My wife, Amy, and I will celebrate our 25th anniversary this August. Our oldest son is a junior at Wazoo. Our younger son is unfortunately still at home in his freshman year at UW Bothell. Can't get him to move out yet. I'm a lifetime Washingtonian. My family's from the east side. I grew up on the west side. Spent 4 years in Wawa at Whitman, not in the penitentiary. Then spent a few years in Tacoma at law school at the University of Puget Sound, which is now Seattle U. Professionally, I've been in the development business, either representing builders and developers or working for a builder for almost 30 years now. I worked, before I came up here, I worked for a number of years, or 6 years, on the permitting for what is now Suncadia. So I got to the firm I was at, they had just submitted the application. I worked on that for the next 6 years through the approvals and the appeals. And It's fun now going up to Suncadia and standing where the lodge is. If you've been there, I was up there standing at that point in 1998 when it was just Plum Creek Forest timberland. What do I like to do for fun? Most of you know I like to ride my bike. I like walking my dogs. We've got a 9-year-old Australian Shepherd and an 11-month-old Golden Retriever that replaced our 8-year-old Golden Retriever that suddenly died, unfortunately, about a year ago. And I like to spend time on the other side of the mountains. We're fortunate to have a place over by Lake Wenatchee, and I spend as much time there as I can. And why I ran for council. I've been on the council since 2014. I'd always had an interest in running for office, but never really thought about it seriously to 2013. And then by 2013, I'd applied to be on the Planning Commission 3 times and had been turned away 3 times. And a certain editor, may he rest in peace, from Mill Creek, suggested in 2013 I consider running, and I thought about it and finally came to the conclusion, if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. So I did it, and here I am, year 9 of 12 to come. So that's me.
Awesome. Thanks for taking this on. Stephanie?
Hi, everyone. Well, I'm Stephanie, as you know, and I live in the Winslow neighborhood. And we moved here to Mill Creek 7 years this month. We bought our house that June. So we were actually here in temp housing over in the apartments for a few months before closing on our house. Before that, I'm from North Carolina, and that's where we moved from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I grew up there. My whole family has been in North Carolina since the Stone Ages, I feel like. Forever. And a little about my family. So my husband and I, what year did we get married? 2010. So, and we have a 7-year-old daughter who's about to turn 8. And I don't know what else to say about that. And a cat. So, so you guys will usually see me running around with Cora. A little about my educational and professional background. So I actually started in property management way back in my early 20s as a leasing consultant. I got a job leasing apartments, and I worked my way up through that company from leasing apartments to being the person who was the assistant manager and handled all the bookkeeping and handled all the money. And from there, I moved on to being a property manager of commercial properties, where I was managing commercial properties, homeowners associations. So I had 13 properties, and I overlooked everything for those properties, all the way from the roofs. I used to be up on like 5 or 6 story buildings downtown on the roof, checking them out. I kind of miss that some days. It's kind of fun. And down in the basement, looking at the water pumps to get the water up, and making sure that the elevators were working and everything. I managed all their budgets and made sure everything was working properly. And so that's what I was doing when I had my daughter. What do I like to do for fun? I think everybody knows these days that I have started running during COVID. And so I am running all the time. It's actually a love that I had back when I was Cora's age. I thought I was going to be in the Olympics and win the gold medal for running. And as I got older, I stopped running. So it's kind of fun to find that love and passion back. And besides running, I think my first love was reading. I have been in love with reading books and reading nonstop since I was very small. And I continue to love to read and love watching Cora read. I ran for city council. I know a lot of people decide to run for city council because they have something they want to change. I actually looked out and looked at the council. And at the time, we had Mayor Pruitt on the council, and I looked at the council and I said, I would like my daughter to have a role model of someone that more women in government, so that she can look and see herself there one day. And I got mad and frustrated because nobody was doing it. And then we had the appointment back when you guys picked Councilmember Steckler. And I applied. I realized that if I wanted her to have that role model, then I had to be the role model and I had to step up and I had to show her what it looked like. So I tried for the appointment and I didn't get it. And everyone was so great and talked to me about getting more involved. And so I got on the Parks Board. And then I ran for the next appointment in 2019 and I was appointed and ran for election that year in 2019. So that's how I got here and how exciting now that Cora has 3 role models on the council to look up to. And so she can see herself sitting here and being involved in government because it's extremely important. Thanks.
Connie Allison. Let's see, it's 12 years tomorrow since we signed the contract for our house. We live in Juniper. I have a large blended family. So I was married to my first husband and had 2 kids. They're 31 and 28. Then I married my husband who had 2 kids from his first marriage and I've raised them since they were 6 and 8. So they're 20 and 22, both in college. One's a senior and one's a junior. And then we had one together. So she's 12. And so I've, spans a whole generation, just the kids. My professional background and my educational background, I have a degree in business management. And I went to work at Boeing because I'd had a baby young, needed to help pay the bills, and got my education as I was working. I'm currently a senior manager in program management. I have a group of integrated schedulers, as they're called at the Boeing company. They're like specialists in putting project schedules together. So if you can imagine billions of lines of a project schedule, that's what they specialize in. Let's see, and what I like to do for fun, took up knitting again after about a 30-year hiatus from that. Haven't been doing much of that lately, but I learned a lot the first pandemic year. We have a boat. We like to go fishing on the Puget Sound, mostly for shrimp and crab because they're a lot less restrictive. It's hell to go catch fish nowadays on the Sound. Too many rules and regulations. And then why I ran for city council. Well, during the pandemic, what was there to do on a Tuesday night? So I started watching council meetings. And I thought I could do a better job than what I was seeing out of one of the people that was on the council. So I decided to set my sights on that. Worked really hard and I got elected. So that's why I'm here. Been strategically thinking at work for many, many years. So yeah, this is right up my alley for pull out the resources out of the back pocket, put them to work in the city government because our city is important to me. It was, yes, I took office in November of 2021.
Melissa.
Hello. My name's Melissa Duque, is how you can say my last name, but feel free to say Duque. I live in the Meadows at Mill Creek, so over by 35th and 132nd. We bought the house in 2012 after I think it was 8-month short sale. So we were just dragging along for that sale, and oh, am I ever happy that we got it, because that market back then was tough and it's only gotten worse. I live there with my husband, my beautiful dog Maggie, who she's a rescue, so we think maybe 8 or 9 years old. Who knows? She just had 2 teeth extracted last week, so she's my love. And then I have 2 sons, a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, 2 boys who you guys have all been able to see when they've come in, and they are a lot. And they're a lot just like their mama, not like their daddy, who's very calm engineer. So, I mean, it was on point. And we've been together, it's going to be 20 years total of our relationship, because we actually got married on our anniversary of us getting together so that we only have one anniversary to celebrate. So that's how we like to streamline things in my household. So that's very nice. I'm originally from Long Beach, California. I went preschool all the way through graduating college in Long Beach, Cal State Long Beach, with my degrees in journalism and history. Greek and Roman were my specialties. So sometimes I get really nerdy. And that's where that comes from. It shines through. And then we moved up here to the Seattle area, originally to Everett, because my husband got a job at Boeing. And I thought I could do public relations anywhere, which is what I was going to do. But then that was in 2007, 2008. And so then there was nothing, and just kept doing work and kept doing the things I love, which is just volunteering. And we've been here since then. And that's a little bit about my family, my education. Oh, professionally, like I said, public relations, it transferred now, or I transitioned more to project management. I worked at an ad agency in Seattle for a long time, and I generally, and with smaller agencies as well. But I work with nonprofits, and foundations are my main client, doing strategic communications and social media and website design. So that is that background. What do I like to do for fun? Movies is a absolute love of mine, not just like really cool artsy movies, but like really cheesy action movies. I love any type of movies. The pandemic, not being able to go to a movie theater was very disappointing, something that you take for granted and you couldn't go to do. So I'm excited for that, and traveling. I miss that quite a bit, and I hope to keep going for that. And I love a Diet Coke. You reminded me, that's just my special things to do. Why I ran for city council? Well, I was thinking about it as we were going through the questions. My very first thing I got elected to was in 7th grade in student council, and it was for the religious affairs position. And then finished that up. Then all through high school, I was in, had different positions, the governor of activities and publicity and all those kind of fun things. And even in college, I did it too. And it was always my thing. And then you grow up and you're an adult and you focus on work and paying the bills, that you kind of forget what are you're passionate about. And the pandemic, and just over the last 8 years in politics, life like that, I just realized I appreciated Stephanie's point about how she wanted to see someone who looked like her up here. I had that same moment. I wanted that same thing. So I actually applied for the position and that's how I met Councilmember Steckler. It was the position that he was appointed to, where I met Stephanie. I also applied for that one. And then I got involved in the Parks and Rec Board, which I absolutely love. I think that's really obvious, and became the chair. And then it just became, time that I stopped saying I wish there were more of anything, and decided I had to do it. Just last year, just like Connie.
Over here to Mark.
Hello. Feels like last year. So I'm chilling in Parkwood. My plan after my divorce to remarry a rich Mill Creek widow has not come through yet, but I'm optimistic. If I can just, the older I get, it gets fewer and fewer men. So at some point they're going to find me. So I found Mill Creek in 1989. My buddy wanted to be a cop, desperately, badly wanted to be a cop. They were hiring reserves, and they had come to the college and did a come work for us thing. And so he talked to me and said, you should be a reserve with me. I was more into business and finance and stuff, and wanted to make a bunch of money. And I wasn't really thinking about the police thing. And then I did a ride along, and I fell in love with the idea of serving the community in that way. And I got hired as a reserve in Mill Creek. And in 1990, completed the Reserve Academy. And then the same year was hired full-time and completed the full-time academy, and then served in as a Mill Creek police officer from 1990 to 2001. had an opportunity to go to the sheriff's office in 2001. My family and I had moved to Mill Creek and loved Mill Creek. I wasn't leaving for any negative reasons. I just wanted the challenges that the sheriff's office was going to provide me that I didn't feel at that time Mill Creek was going to offer me. And so I went to the sheriff's office, but I loved Mill Creek. So I started coming to council meetings, and let me back up a little. One of the things as a police officer back then was officers would deliver the council packets, and no officers wanted to do that. And I saw merit in that because I knew that these folks wrote budgets and stuff and gave us money and funded what we did. And so I would deliver the packets and I would take a few minutes to talk to them, let them know why we needed a new police car, why we could use one more officer, what we were doing that day, whatever questions, and networked with them. And it was actually pretty good. And I enjoyed hearing their thoughts on why they did what they did. Why'd you vote that way? What was going on? Oh, well, we had only enough money to do one thing and the other. So then when I went to the sheriff's office, I'm still living in town and I'm loving the city and I want to be a part of it. And so this fast forward to why did I run for the city council? I just wanted to be a part of this city that I loved. It wasn't like Stephanie. I didn't have an axe to grind. My niche, I guess, was public safety. Police and fire is a huge chunk of our budget. And I had at least some expertise and knowledge and opinion on those. And so in 2003, I ran and I've been here ever since. What I like to do for fun, I like poker. Not home game poker with my buddies, go to the casino, go to Vegas, buy into a tournament, hardcore poker. I love it. And I've read way too many. I got a library of poker books. I watch poker training videos when at home, when you're watching something interesting. I'm watching training videos on how to play hands and out of position, in position, what to do. It's crazy. And my friends, I can't talk to anybody about it because they don't like hearing it unless they happen to be a poker player. But that's what I like to do for fun. About my family, I've got 3 amazing kids. I could spend way too much time on them, but my daughter graduated from Wazoo with a business and marketing degree, got married, and has a wonderful husband and a house down in Puyallup, and will be a grandpa in August for Hudson, who is the bun in the oven, but he's cooking as we speak. My youngest son, Jaden, is 24. He is killing it in heating and air conditioning. He was at Wazoo, didn't want to rack up the loans after 2 years, stepped out of that. Now he's doing classes online. He wants to be a school teacher, but in the 2 years that he's been doing, and he's still doing that, but he was talking to me the other day, he's making so much money in heating and air conditioning. I don't think he'll be able to afford to go to the teaching gig. And teaching doesn't pay that bad, but heating and air conditioning pays really well. And my oldest son, Jordan, will be graduating from the Naval Academy in May, and I'll be flying back to visit him. And then he'll be going to Pensacola to be a naval pilot and begin his training as a pilot. That's my family. Oh, and the ex, joking aside, I'm blessed to have a very good relationship with my ex-wife and her new husband. I consider them dear friends, and I would do anything for them. Yeah, so there we go. I kind of bounced around. I didn't follow the path, but that's Mark Bond.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yes,
My poker tell?
the mask is good. It helped.
Okay, John, you're up, sir.
All right. My name is John Steckler. I lived in Mill Creek 25 years. First 15 years, I lived in the Parkside neighborhood. My 2 sons were born and raised there. In the last 10 years, I moved over to Evergreen, where we've been living. So I'm diehard Mill Creek, gonna die here in Mill Creek. I love Mill Creek. Raised my sons here. I have a older son, Christopher. He's 26. He is gone through the school system here, went to the UW. He is a financial analyst at Amazon. He's gone and launched and doing great in his career. My youngest son, I like to nickname the charismatic monkey. His name is Jeremy. He is also a professional actor. He's also works for DocuSign and in sales, as well as about 6 other things he does. He's all over the place. He's in New York right now doing some auditioning and having some fun, but he also went through the school system and also has launched. So it's just my wife, Lisa, and I, who have been married for 34 years. So that's my family. My educational background, I have a weird background. I was in corporate America for about 30 years. I was in various areas of sales and marketing. When I first started out in the 80s, I was in the television business. And I met a great slew of some really interesting people. There was this one weird, wacky guy. I only remember was his first name was Andrew, but he was with me in television. He went on to become some kind of consultant or something. I don't know what he's doing today, but he and I, yeah,
John and I worked together.
Andrew and I worked together when we were very young in the television business. I since went on and I worked in, healthcare, insurance, manufacturing, sports products, biotech. In all of those, I was in charge of sales and marketing, growing the companies in some type of leadership role. So I finally decided to leave corporate America 7 years ago, and I became a consultant, and I'm a growth strategist. That's what I do. I work with small to medium-sized companies, and I help them put together their strategic growth plans, and in many cases, help them to implement their growth plans. But that is my joy. I work now when I want to work. And for fun, what I would like to do for fun is the other part of my work. I have now returned to professional acting myself. I was a professional actor before I went to college. And I have an agent. And funny thing is, it's the same agent that my son Jeremy has. And yes, sometimes he gets an audition for a part that should have gone to John Steckler, and I'll get a part for Jeremy Steckler. And I'll know it's for him because it's for some 25-year-old kid. And I know that's not for me. And he'll get one for a 60-year-old man. And he will know that that's not for him. But it's really fun. And yes, one time we even got to audition for a father-son role, which was really a lot more fun. He actually knocks down more roles than I do, but I do get some work. That everybody likes to ask. My last big gig was I shot a movie last August called Year of the Fox that was here in town and will be coming out sometime this year. And I still do a lot of other pieces here and there and a little bit of stage work. That is my fun. Why I ran for council also ties into that. I have an artistic love of the arts. It is inbred in me. It's in my two sons. My older son is a phenomenal singer. My younger son is also an actor. I mentioned my wife, Lisa. I actually met my wife, Lisa, who was also an actress in a play. She and I were cast opposite each other. It was a show, you might have known a movie called 7 Year Itch, had Marilyn Monroe and Tom Yule. There was this pretty young girl upstairs and this kind of dirty old man downstairs. I was the dirty old man downstairs and my wife was the pretty young girl upstairs. We got cast together and I fell in love with her the first time I set eyes on her. And just chased her like a crazy man. And she agreed to date me and she agreed to marry me. And this year we celebrated 32 years of marriage. Hopefully we'll have many more. So arts is in our passion. All of my sons went through 3 schools here, elementary, middle school, and high school, all in the arts, singing, acting. None of the schools in Mill Creek have a stage. If they wanted to work on a stage, you had to go to a school or outside of Mill Creek. And so I always thought, gosh, it'd be great to build a performance center here in Mill Creek for the schools, for the adult people that want to perform. And then I heard that there was an open council seat. So I came down here to apply for the open position. And to my shock, I got the position. That was in 2018. I ran an election after that. 2 years later, got reelected, had to run another election 2 years after that, which is a lot easier because I was unopposed. And I just got reelected for another 4 more years. So I've got 3 years after this year. On the city council. But one thing I am not, and I like to say this quite proudly, I'm a terrible politician. I'm the worst politician up here. I am not very political. I stink up here. I say what's on my mind and I'm not very good at it, but I have a great heart for saying what I believe and I'm very honest in when I say what's on my mind. So I try very hard to survive in this environment, but I really want to give back to the city and to the citizens. I care very much about that. And my passion would be if we could ever have a performing arts center or a civic center here in Mill Creek to build the communities back together. That is a goal of mine. I'm done.
Well, thank you for that. Just as an FYI, I did tell the mayor I was wearing a tan sweater tonight, but he chose to wear his anyway. I hate copycats. Vincent Cavalieri is my name. I have been a resident of Mill Creek for, I think, close to 16 years now. We live in Webster's Pond and have happily loved it. It was new construction when we bought it. We had lived in Everett prior to that. And so it was just that next building block in life or that next strata of house. And I mean, once we shopped around, we looked in Bothell, we looked in Snohomish, and almost found a place in Snohomish, but we were compelled to stay here. We lost one home and then we, of course, got our new one, and we've been happy in it ever since. We love Webster's Pond. It's a great community, and the whole city really is just, no matter where you turn, it's thriving. I've been married for 33 years now, 33 blessed years, have two wonderful children, Joshua and Nicole. Nicole is an advertising executive. Joshua teaches autistic children. And it's funny because I know he probably won't like me saying this, but he was a troubled teen as a young man, much as I was. And here he is teaching young people, especially in crisis. So it's pretty incredible, his story. But I recently, as of 5 months ago, became a grandfather for the first time. So it's life coming at us really fast, really quick, but it's really incredible. I never thought that it would be so good. I thought, that was that tier that they tell you that you become a grandfather. Now you're an old guy. Now it is probably the best thing, or top two, that has happened in this blessed life of mine. Education. Well, I barely got through high school. My education took place in the United States military, thankfully, due to an intervention by an NYPD sergeant that lived on our block, who pretty much gave me a choice of a road to the pokey or a ride to the recruitment center. And that man, Sergeant Dan O'Malley, saved my life probably many years ago. I don't know where I would be. I'm sure I would have easily fallen prey to the streets of New York back then. And I was heading in that direction. What I like to do for fun. Well, love to kickbox. I love high impact sports. I love grappling and all that. But what many of you may not know is on Christmas Eve of this year, I had a blood clot in my neck, collapsed and almost died. And yet here I am. My wife has made me swear off of impact sports. They believe it was a blow to the neck or some sort of strangulation hold that caused or started it. Anyway, the good Lord was with me, and here I am. I'm able to sit and tell the story. I made it out of the hospital the next day for Christmas to hold Riley for the first time. So this is one of those stories that really writes itself when you think about it. Why I ran for council? Well, I ran originally in 2011 and lost, and it was kind of a last minute thing. And it's funny that Brian talked about our dearly departed friend that put it in his ear, but it was the same thing where I was complaining to Mr. Philbrook, and he told me to put my money where my mouth is. So I did. I ran for office and lost by about 100 votes the first time. And basically they said, you're a great guy and you probably do well, but nobody knows who you are. So like everybody else's story, I did the same thing. I got involved. I got on committees, and I remember Mike Todd, our director, was on the Parks Board, the liaison at the time, and him and I had a great conversation, and he mentored me a little bit, and I really appreciate his efforts at that time for bringing me into the fold and kind of steering me in the right direction. And then subsequently in 2014, I was appointed to a seat and then won in 2015 and again in 2019 in those subsequent elections. So here I am. I'm very thankful to be here. I work with a great group of individuals, and I'm really thankful to hear all of your stories up here. It was great to hear, and I'm very thankful.
Staff also.
I'm Stan White. I'm the acting chief of police here at Mill Creek. I live a stone's throw away from the city limits in unincorporated Bothell. I lived there with my wife Jessica and our children for many moons. It's been many years. Like I said, I'm very fortunate to have a very beautiful and caring wife that takes care of our family very well. Jessica is the cornerstone of our family. I have 4 kids. Tyler is senior airman in the Air Force. He's a F-16 crew chief. Kylie, my daughter, just graduated from Jackson last year. She is currently working at Starbucks and loving that. Bryce is a sophomore at Jackson. He's on the track team. He's out there running track. And my youngest son, Colton, is attending Gateway Middle School. We do a lot of sports. Sports is our mainstay. I spend more of my time driving my children around the state of Washington and getting on airplanes to Arizona and California for basketball, baseball, all those types of things. It is my youngest son's passion. That's what he wants to become. And my son Bryce wants to become an astronaut. So we're trying to encourage them the best they can to do those things. Bryce was actually fortunate enough to go to space camp in Huntsville, Alabama with his grandfather. One of the happiest moments of his life, I'm sure. So I wish I could have been able to be there for that one, but unfortunately I missed that one. Professionally, I've been in law enforcement since 1995. I started with a very small police department, Clyde Hill, suburb of Bellevue. I was there for almost 8 years. And in 2003, I lateraled here to the Mill Creek Police Department, where I actually, a lot of officers are drawn to the big agency and those types of things. That's not my passion. I really enjoyed working for Clyde Hill, and I thought that was, not unlike Councilmember Bond, I just didn't think that they had the challenges that I wanted to experience at the time. And Mill Creek was a little bit more fun, yet was not big, challenging to where I'd be running call to call all the time. I've had an opportunity to grow tremendously while here at the city. I've been able to become a Trilogy Award winner with the FBI LEDA Academy. I've been to the Northwest Command College. I've had a blessed career here. And so I'm very fortunate to have spent the last 18 years and probably will continue to be here until the day I decide to retire, which who knows, another 5 to 10 years, who knows? At least 6 with my son being in middle school, right? So for fun, I really enjoy a good walk ruined by a game of golf. That's always a lot of fun. I spend a tremendous amount of time in Eastern Washington. We have a family home there, and I love water sports. I love to wake surf. So my kids love to wakeboard, so that's what we do. We spend time as a family doing those sports. And I think I already just kind of described why I came to work here, but it's been a blessing. It's been a lot of fun to work here. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. 2003.
Hey guys, my name is Laurel Brock. I'm the finance director here. I live in unincorporated Snohomish. I moved there. I was finally able to get a house in November. It was very challenging, but I got enough acreage that I can bring my horses up here. So I'm really excited to get those here next month. My family, I have 2 very spunky French bulldogs at home. Their names are Stitch and Lula, and they are my world. All the rest of my family is in Kansas, so they keep me company. As far as education goes, I have a bachelor's in business administration and accounting. I'm working on getting my master's in finance and accounting as well, so that I can get my CFA and CPA, just because it seems like something to do. I started in investment banking. And then I moved into local government. I started in the clerk's office and worked my way up. I actually had a mass in my lung about February of 20 is when we had it removed. And I had always wanted to work in Washington. And so I was like, this is it. I lived through this. I am going to work in Washington. And so Mill Creek had a finance director position. And I said, I'm going to try. So here we are. And it has been absolutely gorgeous. When I got here, I was like, this is the most beautiful city I think I've ever seen. So, yeah. Last year. It was December of 20.
Did you share what you?
Oh, I did not. So I ride horses. I like to go take my dogs to the Puget Sound, just kind of hang out. Stitch really likes the water. Anytime the water splashes, he just loses.
Like Todd, I'm currently the Director of Public Works and Direct Development Services since September of 2020. That's a long story. I'll circle all the way back. I live in Spring Tree, lived there since 1983, right before the city became a city. So I get to be the old timer in the city here. So lived there the whole time. Got 2 kids, a son, Ben. Went through all the schools here. He now lives in Lake Forest Park. He is a product manager, design kinds of tasks at a company called Teague. You may not have heard of, but they working in the aerospace industry with people who've got new ideas for new products, those kinds of things. He is going to be married next month to his fiancee, Larson, who is just this afternoon finished up her nurse practitioner degree. And so she's now a nurse practitioner and is going to be hunting for a new job soon. My daughter, Michaela, lives down in Plano, Texas. We're going to get her back one of these days. She is a graphic designer and an art director for a company that does merchandising and product packaging for Frito-Lay and their other affiliated companies. Her boyfriend of many, many years is a computer scientist and a video game producer. And so he works for one of the big video game producers companies down in Texas. We're trying to get him to come work in the Seattle area. Each couple has blessed me with a wonderful dog. So that's what I've got. I got 2 grand dogs. That's the best I can do. I love both dogs. I have degrees in mechanical and electrical engineering from Stanford. That equipped me for a career that didn't include those things directly. I was more of a systems engineer. My first job was in human machine interfaces back before touchscreens, back before color displays. And that's what got me into first working down in the Portland area, which is my hometown, and then came up here and worked for Fluke. Starting in 1982, that's what brought me to this area. While working at Fluke, did a lot in product marketing, then an entrepreneurial internal new venture within Fluke. Ran a product development group for a while, ran a big marketing group for a while, got into business development, business planning, a number of things. When I retired out of that, I became a stay-at-home dad and a community volunteer, and that got me involved in soccer. And soccer is what brought me to the city. Having lived here and got involved with youth soccer, always looking for fields. And so talking to the city, talking to the county, talking to the schools, how do you find enough fields for 2,000 kids in this area who want to play soccer? And that's what brought me first to the city to understand what was going on. And one of many of the stories up here, I tried for an appointment to the council in 1999. People may not remember that, but it was the year that John Lovick went to the state legislature and Donna Michelson got the job. So I went away, dang, I'm gonna have to get more involved. And I, very shortly after that, one of the council members asked me to be on what was called the Metropolitan Park Task Force. They're looking at doing a Metropolitan Park District. We just spent a year or 2 looking at that. Somebody said, you ought to get on the Parks Board. So I did the Parks Board thing like many of us did. And then in 2005, a gentleman by the name of Jack Stark passed away and I applied for that spot, got that one. Won 5 elections after that. Not a good idea to get appointed in a short year, as some of you have figured out. The calling happened in 2020. The city had lost all of its engineering staff. And I said to the city manager at the time, Mr. Michael Garavino, who I highly respect, I said, I don't have a civil engineering degree. I've got the other kinds of engineering degrees. I've got a lot of business experience and I got a long history of the city. If you'd like me to, I will roll up my sleeves and make this a job. So I've done that. As you can tell, I love this city. I couldn't bear to leave this city. I couldn't bear to not see it prosper. And so I crossed over to the light side or the dark side, depending on who you're talking to. Staff calls it one way, electeds call it the other. But that's what gets me back to it. So a long and varied career here at City Mill Creek. I think that's the questions. Oh, like for fun. So soccer, I wore out my knees by refereeing, coaching, playing. I still play indoor goalkeeper, which is the only position you can play that doesn't involve running, but it still does involve getting smacked in the face. So that's what I do every Sunday morning is get smacked quite a bit. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. It's a tough thing following Mike. I'll start with my background. I grew up and born and raised in Richland, Washington, Eastern Washington. A little bit about my history, about my family life. Spent a lot of my time in Warden, just south of Moses Lake. Family had a farm there for about 40 years. I farmed there as a kid, summers, that's put me through school. So that's where I kind of learned a lot of my work ethic over the years. I think that's really the thing that kept me going. I tell you, just pulling the weeds and fertilizing prepares you for government work. But you always come back, right? When I went to my undergraduate degree, I came up in it's the 88 after graduating high school, went up to CLU, got an undergrad in business, specific in accounting, realized really quick that I really didn't like it. But I stayed in finance and accounting for a number of years. And I developed an expertise in that. In my 40s, went back to school when I was married and went back to CLU and got my MBA in strategy and management at the same school. So one of the big turning points in my life was going back to school. I think it really changed kind of my perspective on business and how to run things. We talk about SWOT analysis. That's a big tool we use too, the business tool. I have two beautiful daughters. One is 17, the other 15, both at Bellevue High School. I spend a lot of my time, I still do, spending a lot of time with them. My oldest just got accepted at the U and then CLU as well. We're kind of waiting on other schools now to come back. It's March is the time. So we'll see how that goes. My youngest is in drill team, on the drill team. They're going to state next weekend. So I spend a lot of my time doing things with my daughters. What I'd like to do for fun, fishing. Took on fly fishing recently, so I love to go to Montana. Never been there, but I try to fish around here when I get a chance. Usually it's bait fishing, but fly fishing's been the big thing with my brother and I lately. We've been down. The last trip we went to was in Ellensburg. They have those tours along the Yakima River, and so we go down there once in a while. Why I work for the city of Mill Creek? Well, when I started off, I was a work study at CLU. And that's what I got. One of my first jobs is working for the city of Seattle. Worked there for about, maybe 13 years. Left about the same time I got my MBA and started a company, a delivery company. Had that for about 4 years. We sold it, my business partner and I. And then I worked for Pacific Northwest Advisors, which is a consulting firm that my old B school prof was involved in. So we did that for about 4 years. And I realized that it was tough to make a living consulting. And so for me, at least, because I wasn't really good at it. So I went back into government and made a decision when my kids were young that that's where I wanted to end my career. So went back to the city, held a number of positions across finance administrative services, parks department, and then prior to Mill Creek, I was working for the Seattle Police Department where I held a finance management role. So here I'm at Mill Creek, been here since July 28th of 2021.
It does. Oh, well, I'll get to last but not least. So my name is Grant Degginger. I am been serving as the city attorney for Mill Creek for the last 2 years. I'm a shareholder in the firm of Lane Powell in Seattle, where I chair our government law practice, and I've been practicing there since 1985. Actually, summer clerk there in 1984, so quite some time ago. My first, I grew up, I'm a fifth generation Seattle area person. I grew up on Mercer Island, and my first municipal job was working for the city of Mercer Island between my junior and senior year of high school, where we had a program called the Earn and Learn program. We got paid the right high salary of $1.50 an hour, so we called it the Earn and Get Burned program. And I got to work in various city departments 4 days a week, and then we would have a half day or two or a full day of learning about city government. So this is kind of where this all began. But you would work in the street department, and I learned how to drive a stick shift on a city dump truck with air brakes. As long as I'm the city attorney of Mill Creek, no 16-year-old ever will drive a city vehicle, especially a dump truck with air brakes. But I learned a lot that summer. It was a great experience, and it got me interested in government. I went to University of Washington, graduated, and worked for an advertising agency in Seattle for a few years, and then went back to Washington, D.C. and worked for a member of Congress for 4 years at the U.S. Capitol. And there's a connection between the work that I did there and the work that you're doing because the person I worked for was a guy named Joel Pritchard who invented pickleball. And I learned how to play pickleball from the man himself. And he was pretty good at it. And I got to be pretty good at it for a while too. So I'm really glad that you're keeping up his tradition and doing so much to add a really great sport to the community here in Mill Creek. In my practice, I would represented a lot of different cities, counties, other governmental agencies. I've served as an ethics hearing officer for cities as well. My wife is also a lawyer. We went to law school together. So she's her practice, she's an assistant attorney general, and she represents social workers for the Department of Children and Youth Services, Youth and Families, and handles matters in juvenile court like terminations of parental rights and also shelter care hearings and in matters that involve protecting children. So that's been her practice. We have two sons, 34 and 29. Both of them are married. And like several others tonight, I became a grandparent just last year in 2020. And so I have a wonderful grandson who's about 20 months old now, and he's the apple of my eye and like to spend a lot of time with him. For fun, I like to ski in the winter, play a lot of golf. We have a family home on Camano Island where we spend a lot of time in this, in the nicer weather and try to catch a few crab once in a while. And we have a great time there. I like to travel and enjoy also the opportunities to work with all of you on, fulfilling your dreams and your visions and making this city a tremendous place to live, work, and play.
Thank you all.
I guess there was one other thing I didn't mention. I spent 12 years as a member of the Bellevue City Council and 2 terms as the mayor of that city. And so I have a little bit of experience working in local government as well, and also a term on the State Public Disclosure Commission.
And how long have you been our city attorney? Well, there's a lot of intersections. The two of you can go crab fishing. I suggest that I keep you and Vince apart. You're both a little bit of hard contact folks. But it's great getting to know everybody. So that was very, very cool. So what we're going to do before our break is our North Star. We're going to review our vision and our mission. We're not here to rewrite it. However, as you look at it, we have lots of new council members. As you look at it, if there is any energy in the idea of updating it, then we can put that as the next step. Let's take a look. Got to channel my inner person there. So here we go, the vision. And of course, this is on the website. You've got a great, the guiding principles. It's our vision, our mission. I love the star values. That is totally cool. And then some goals that are very, very directional. But Mill Creek will be the city where everyone works together to foster an exceptional community experience, a place where people are safe, the natural beauty preserved, neighborhoods flourish, businesses thrive, and recreational opportunities abound. Now, you'll remember the model I showed you. The vision should really be a North Star and kind of inspire you. The idea is that when you set up your priorities, is we want to make sure that the priorities that you're establishing are not only important present day, but it is looking at it through the lens of our North Star here. Mission. Mill Creek's mission is to set the standard of excellence for local government. Through dynamic and innovative strategies, we provide outstanding public services in a fiscally responsible manner to promote safe, active, and a vibrant, I believe that says vibrant city. So I'm just going to open it up, our break, our first break, we've got 15 minutes. We're doing fine on time. Does anybody have any comments about our vision or our mission? Does anybody remember when this was last done?
2016, I think.
Actually, it was just a few years ago. Yeah. It's funny that as you were reading this, and I'll be even more candid. It's the first time I've looked at it since we drafted it in 15 or 16, whatever year that was. And I remember us just poring over the words, which ones to use, whether we use foster more than once and all these other things. So kind of a blast from the past, but definitely a meaningful vision and mission statement.
Excellent. I really appreciate that. And the fact that you haven't dusted it off for a few years, that, you know, it's absolutely normal. But it really is, it should be the lens that we look at. And by the way, again, under the banner of best practices, a vision and a mission are shelf stable. Those tend to last sometimes for generations, right? It's the strategic priorities that change, right? Because our environment changes. I mean, look what's happened in our society over the last 2+ years. I mean, it's crazy, just absolutely nuts. And it's presented new challenges. It's presented new opportunities, and we're finding our way through it. So thank you, Vince. Does anybody else have anything that they're kind of inspired to share based on looking at that? Yes, Melissa.
When I started volunteering for the city, I remember at the time the communications director shared it with us. And I think it was when I was on the Parks and Rec board. And I was really impressed because for this visual, because I was like, oh, this is a city staff and city council that really knows the direction, the guiding overall of, what their focus area is. It just professionally, I was like, this is really strong. And when I was running for city council, I would go back to this actually to formulate a lot of how did I feel, because I liked it so much at the time. How could I create those strategies and then the tactics and like execution as I'm talking to people about what I thought was important for the city, and specifically with the vision, that's where I focused on. So I had this up when I was formulating my talking points and conversation about what I thought made Mill Creek special. And then also when I worked on with the Arts and Beautification Board on the historical panels that we have out there, I was doing all the research for that and then presenting it to the Arts Board. I would keep this frame in mind in terms of where what they were thinking about and what was the information coming out. So as someone who was not part of the process, I just want you to know, and someone who's again, I told you I nerd out on weird things. This is one of those that I thought it was just a really great thing to have.
It's good work. Thank you for sharing. Does anybody else have anything? And when I say that, I'm including staff. John.
Well, I have an opinion or thought. When I look at a mission and vision statement, I've always thought of a mission statement as being a definition of who you are and why you're in business, what you do, why you're there. And a vision is an aspirational goal of where you want to go, where you want to be someday. And so when I look at this mission and vision, I think they're both extremely well written. But the mission and the vision to me are both seem to be mission statements. They seem to be definitions of who we are and what we do. And even the vision statement itself is a mission statement. It states who we are, the kind of city we are, and this is exactly who we are. We're businesses thrive, recreational opportunities bound. I would like to see if we don't have to, but if we did want to create it, I'd rather see a more aspirational vision statement of what Mill Creek could become. What could it look like? Not what it is today, what it could be. And I would like that vision statement to not be reflective of what Mill Creek is today, but what it could be.
I'm going to put that in the parking lot just because I want it to be captured. Does anybody else have any comments? Go ahead.
Having been involved in this in the process, this is, if you're in a business, these are typically much shorter and much more succinct. And those of us who are here will remember there's all these ideas that had to get wrapped into them. So one of the difficulties is they're not very memorable. None of us could say those even if you held a gun to our head, even if we'd studied it 3 minutes ahead of time. So, cover that. We can't say it again. So sometimes that is an issue you want to think about. But I think if you look at that, and it kind of goes to what Councilman Steckler is saying, there's a lot of things. Oh, we were about safety, beauty, neighborhoods, businesses thriving, recreational opportunities. And we felt like we had to name all this stuff. And by doing this by committee, we kind of threw all the stuff in. I don't know if that holds us back necessarily, but I concur that there may be some more aspirational aspects to it someday. I think at the time we were just starving for having something to coalesce around, because we've gone for a couple of years without this kind of thing. So I think as a first effort, this was pretty good. And like you said, it's held up well. I still use this every day with the staff when we're having meetings. We point to this and point to the goals, and it's useful.
Yeah, excellent. I did a lot of research, 7 years of research, and interviewing nearly 1,000 small business owners as part of writing my book. And so I just looked at a lot of different models, and Mike is correct. Typically, vision statements are less than 25 words, and vision statements are maybe up at the 15 barrier. So what you said really resonates with me. Well, let me ask this. Does the city of Mill Creek have a slogan or a tagline? Because those are the really short comments that, to Mike's point, are easier to remember. And, I've lived here since 2008, and I can't answer the question. And I'm not saying that it's a gap. I'm just asking.
I don't remember what became of it. I remember we talked about it. I'm sorry?
Oh,
All right.
old timers, we were struggling. Still exists.
Right. Well, it's true of every city that isn't, the center of the metropolitan statistical area. I cannot tell you how many times I have heard that, and it's kind of divided. There's, always two different camps, and so that makes sense. So I did get a couple things in the parking lot. Maybe if you were to update it, look at it being more aspirational, in terms of what we will be, and that the mission and vision are a little lengthy. The idea is not to make a decision here and now that yes, we're going to update it, or no, we're not. That wasn't the goal. The goal was so that we knew what our lens was, our North Star, because when we get into the generative work that will happen on the 22nd, when you're going through the process of brainstorming, consolidating, prioritizing, and framing a short set of 2022 council priorities. And I see you all have it right in front of you. So that's great. Any other final comments before we take our break? Okay. Well, given that we're a few minutes ahead of schedule, we okay to take the full 15 minutes? I see thumbs up. You guys have earned it. So take a look at your clock. By the way, has anybody ever been to like a convention where they say a 15-minute break and then they get back to business 25 minutes later? We're not going to do that. So I'm going to ask you to look at your watch, and I'm going to ask you to all be back here in 14 minutes, and we'll start in 15. Thanks, everybody. Great start to the evening. Excuse me? Yes. Yeah, I accepted an appointment with the School of Business fall of 2012. So this is actually, spring will kind of conclude my 10th academic year. I love the youth. I'm a professional dropout. School, I dropped out of college, and so I didn't have a traditional education. And I wasn't even looking for this gig, but my book did okay, and they were buying my book for 2 of their marketing courses. And my distributors on the East Coast, I don't really pay attention, but every month when I get the kind of the readout, I noticed that there were huge purchases from the university bookstore. And this would have been, a year after it published. So that would have been in 2011. And then one of the professors that used that as it's as part of the curriculum, it's not appropriate for an entire body of study. He found out I was local because rather than going with a publisher, I actually interviewed a couple, got interviewed by a couple. But when I realized I'm going to make 1 or 2 points on this thing, I said, be my own publisher. And so I started a publishing company. So I'm making a much bigger margin on it. The point is that they found out I was local. So I got asked to guest lecture a total of 3 times. And then I got the offer and I accepted. So the only campus I teach at is UW. And I usually only do 1 class a quarter because I do business. I teach the class that I teach most often is called business consulting. And you don't have to have any interest in consulting. People don't take it, but they take it because they learn about critical thinking, problem solving, inductive reasoning, some consulting frameworks. Also teach marketing and entrepreneurship. Marketing. Anyway. Oh, thank you for asking.
That's where your kids are going now? Yeah, and he grew up in Clyde Hill, so.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wow.
I told her how much I got. I got $2,000. That was when I started.
Our 22-year-old was going to the UW, but she didn't get into the nursing school at UW. And she got into the UW, she got into the Seattle U nursing school. Yeah, but the first year they gave her like 20,000, like a signing bonus, moving over there, and that. So the first year wasn't that bad, but this year it was like, yeah, then we get a big break. Yeah.
So I get it. I don't know. She applied to University of Toronto.
Oh, wow.
So we're waiting to see.
Yeah.
She said, "Oh,
So she hasn't made her decision yet. Wants to hear back from everybody.
No.
Okay.
She,
It is. It's really tough unless you're like that 1% that like is involved in everything and has all these accolades. It's really kind of crazy. Right. Our 20-year-old, he's a little autistic, like not severe. He'll be fine. He's gonna be an engineer. It'll be fine. But yeah, he doesn't want to leave his childhood room, right? So he goes to the WSU extension at Everett Community College in the computing engineering program, which is fine, but his older sister moved into a dorm and has never come home again, like she teases us all the time. What are you going to do about him? And we're like, we have a plan. when he gets a job, we'll watch his bank account, and when he has enough money, when he shouldn't be living in his childhood home, childhood room, we'll help him move out somewhere, you know? We never had any rebellious attitude from him because he recognizes a good deal. Yeah. Yeah, perfectly fine to eat a home cooked meal every day.
Honey, I always need to tell you.
Yeah.
I would like to see the too.
I had like a year and a quarter when I had my. I went back to school. Yeah, then I got pregnant. So then I didn't go.
Yeah, I lived for 2 years. I moved full time and went to school full time both. And it was like, yeah, it was like super hard. I remember it was.
You know, yeah. So yeah, it was like. And all the traveling.
I remember
myself and
acupuncture,
a
I would
dog
fall
and a
asleep.
car and a truck and, you know, I just,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, but you know, whatever.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's what that's what I. Yeah. There's a.
Well, mine's not working.
Yours is working.
Yeah, it's like,
Mine's gone.
if you wanna take. It's like,
Do it. Well, it's not gonna work. It's like I don't.
do this much something.
Okay, so here's what I do. I watch the hype to end up getting on things that they're like, oh, you should want like the things that get commented about, but not. Oh, was it? Yeah. But, yeah, I don't watch a lot of TV. So yeah, so I'll watch a little bit of the thing of stuff when the what's funny and see it. And other than that, I just don't watch a lot of TV. I know I was telling her like, how do you have shows? Like we used to have shows that we guys watch. So we always watch like,
Technically not free.
right now we're
taxes,
watching reruns.
but-
I know. No. But yeah.
I don't
And
need
I
it.
have Amazon Prime. Why we haven't watched it.
Well, the only reason we
And
have
we
it is
used to
you
always
suggested we have.
Yeah,
dinner.
before, so that's why I always watch it. Oh, and Big Bang Theory. Love television.
My brother's-
I know, I like such serious things.
Yeah.
I'm way too serious in life. I think it's fun.
Dude, the fried chicken pizza is awesome.
I am like way too serious. No, except. Well, I got 3 of them though, but I'm like.
You've not seen my like.
Hey, you never know when you're getting some sugar from my gut. Oh, you got some decided. Yeah, I don't know.
Which one is soccer?
Oh, she's doing, Rush does a skills academy. So I think it's because they're trying to recruit you. Yeah, it's Rush Soccer. So it's literally only Mondays. So it's every Monday, so. So they'll do like alternate. They'll do like.
Oh, and they're shiny.
I was like, look at you, girl. Got my first aqua techniques.
Oh, yeah.
My first bounce. Like that.
No, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Vince. Okay. I could tell. I could tell. Oh, okay, great. Well, thank you for introducing. I've never owned a horse, but when I was in late junior high and early high school, I used to work at dude range. I was a dude counselor for the Triple B Ranch in Selah, Washington. But for 3 years, teaching kids horsemanship. How to pick a hoof without causing any problems. Right?
Kid, oh my goodness. Trying to keep it avoiding because I really last year have one due any day now. I know that's what my mom offered her today, and she's like, I'm gonna be going back here probably next week. I'm gonna leave after the 22nd for driving down there. Leave the dog. Go to first. I have.
Okay, everybody, we're going to start in about a minute.
You're calmly chilling. You're sitting in your seat, calmly chilling. I'm tired too, since I was up really late, realizing that my husband had not gotten those reservations and they were all full, and we might have to.
So the
tell
horse is moving out
7-year-olds
here?
you couldn't go to Disneyland. Well, that's, he really had not reserved. Pierre kept.
Family's driving them out or?
I think next week after their trio. Go back to Kansas.
Well, in a couple. Oh, pardon. I lost Mark. He was here the whole time and he left as soon as I said we're going to start. He must know about this next part, right? Well, what I want to do is just share a little bit about this. I know some of you have done SWOT analyses and it's a somebody said over here that it's a standard tool. And what's interesting is that most of what we know in business that kind of frames our strategic planning frameworks, they all came from the Department of Defense after World War II. And so SWOT is one of those things. It wasn't called SWOT in the military, but so essentially this is a current situation analysis. This is present day, okay? And as I mentioned before, the acronym stands for strengths and weaknesses. And those are internal conditions with inside the city's control, okay? Council determines policy. Your city manager determines who is hired, et cetera. And so there are things within the city's control, and that's what strengths and weaknesses are. When we get to opportunities and threats, those are conditions outside of our control. And by the way, I have a list of primers for both internal and external. to make it easier. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do one short set of all four of those: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And are you able to see that? Okay. And you might notice that all of these only have 8 bullets. And now there's, limits are what's really important. And as council members, the people that set the policy for the city is that you're constantly having to make trade-offs, right? I mean, you only have so much human, financial, and physical capital to work with, right? And Stan knows what I'm talking about in terms of physical capital. It's our police cars. There's a lot of physical capital that we have, but they all have limits. And in strategic planning, I establish limits. I never go more than 10. And for startups, I usually only allow 5. But the idea is that it's going to force you to make trade-offs. And I want you to think really big, not, minute strengths, but things that are just absolutely huge. And the reason that SWOT is so important is, we've got our vision statement as our North Star. And by the end of today, you're going to have your SWOT analysis. By the way, I will publish that and bring the document so you all have that in front of you when we get into our generative work, when we start developing your strategic priorities. Because between the vision, where you want to be, and your SWOT analysis, where you are, again, strategic planning is merely bridging the gap. So the idea is, and I know Brian knows this, is that when you hit 8, if somebody else has a better idea, you kind of have to convince the rest of the room what they're going to have to knock off, right? It's easier said than done, I know. The other thing, again, this is going to be boring for Brian because we've been through 3 or 4 retreats together, past chair of the board, Master Builders Association. But this is my ABC box. So I have all 3 forms of dyslexia. This is not a joke. I was labeled mentally retarded in 3rd grade because I couldn't read, spell, or do math as well as the other kids. And they didn't test for dyslexia in the mid-60s. I'm listening to all you kids. My granddaughter turns 22 this year. Who went to Jackson High School, by the way? Yeah. So I'm what's that? Yeah, there you go. Anyway, but I can't spell. Can't spell to save my life. And I start every class at the U doing this because they're paying big bucks to take my classes. When they see on the whiteboard that I can't spell, that could be a little disconcerting to some folks. We were talking over here about tuition and just, how crazy it is. So here's the deal.
Isn't the best move to get somebody up there to do, like a student, to do the writing for you, though?
That would be great. The only challenge is that when I'm actually unpacking a brand new framework, it would take me longer to explain it than it would actually just to write it. And it's a whole lot of ugly. But one thing I learned many years ago is by putting this letterbox up here. So I have an assignment for all 12 of you, 13 of you. And that is when you see a word that's missing a letter, all you do is quietly and cognitively pull the letter out of the letterbox and fix it. You're also going to see words up here that have an extra letter. Just reverse the process. By the end of the night, it's all going to even out. It's just going to be kind of ugly getting there. So that's my disclaimer. Cannot spell. So we're going to go ahead and do all 4 lists. And then you're going to go through a prioritization exercise. I made sure that everybody has a set. This is your currency. I'll explain that when we get to the voting. I kind of want to just unpack this as we go. So here are SWOT primers, internal primers, product, price, place, promotion. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm a marketing guy, but then we've got infrastructure areas, facility, finance, people, and technology. Now, I'm not going to say that every SWOT item that's ever been written falls into one of those 8 categories on the internal, but it does, probably about 95% of them do, and it's designed to stimulate your thinking, not limit your thinking. You're not limited to that. But, our product, Mill Creek is a product. It's a quality of place. We have this amazing town center, Town Center 2 being built. Our location. I mean, you talk about our location in the vision and values. Finance. We have an able-bodied finance director in Laurel. But the idea is that the bottom four are about infrastructure, facility, finance, people. People are probably the most important asset any organization has, whether it's public, private, or nonprofit. And so I'm just going to start us there with the internal. I'll explain the external primers when we get to opportunities and threats. I'm going to have to put the mic down, and so I'll talk as loud as I can. This is where I need to actually go to work. So, because there are more people in the room than there are bullets. By the way, I do work for you, so if you guys are going to twist my arm out a couple more, I'm not going to get completely autocratic. But understanding that there are limits to everything. So this is my request. Is what I'm going to ask you to do is you're just going to share. And I call it a headlines exercise. The reason I call it headlines is the average headline. I've got someone in publishing. There are a lot of you that are in marketing. Somebody have studied journalism. You study journalism. I knew somebody did that. You understand public relations too. The idea is that we want.
I'm sorry, we're having trouble picking up the audio.
Sorry, you bet. I'm just going to have to work this out. But the idea is we want to hear from as many people as possible. So once you have put a headline up here, by the way, the headline, most headlines are between 4 and 7 words, right, Melissa? That's why we call it a headline exercise. We're not going to write a book, okay? You're going to give me just a short bullet headline format that all of us would understand as a core strength for the city of Mill Creek. And so if you have a contribution up here, I'm going to ask that you just allow other people to contribute. And then if we still have a few bullets left and we've run out of steam, then if somebody who has something already here, we'll accept another offering. But I want to just kind of even the process out. Does that make sense? So again, we're thinking really big. We're thinking really leverageable things. Leverageable in terms of serving our residents, our businesses, etc. So who wants to start us off with the headline strength? Something that the city of Mill Creek is really strong at, serious core competency. Vince, thanks for starting us off.
I think our city is, if we give it one word, is unique.
I have a lot of marketing people in the room, and we know that if we actually are unique, that establishes a competitive advantage. Look at that, 4 words. So we're going to channel our inner Vince. Very good. Thank you for starting us off. Somebody different. Yes, sir. Martin.
About our brand, or maybe I'm thinking about the way that how it resonates across the entire region. City of Mill Creek is a place where people can go where they're familiar with town center, the restaurants, the businesses.
Great. Can you package that in a headline for me? I can't do those 32 words in one thing. I couldn't even get all of that on one sheet. I didn't count. I am paying attention.
Would it have to be something with destination? Is that maybe what you're like pulling from? Like it's a
destination
it's a
value,
destination.
maybe,
Oh, name recognition.
town center is a word or a phrase that resonates across the region.
Yeah.
Town center, Mill Creek Town Center in itself is
Thank you, Martin. Excellent. Yeah, absolutely. This is a jewel and leverageable. It's a magnet. It attracts people from outside of our zip code, which is kind of cool.
Can we say our parks and green spaces?
We can. I mean, this is your list, not mine. John, I saw your hand up a minute ago.
I'm going to say a strong financial base.
Strong financial base. Excellent. So we've gone through half our bullets. Some new people that haven't got anything up here. Any, by the way, the 8 is a maximum, not a minimum. When you get to external conditions, those are a little bit tougher to come up with. So I am not trying to sell you on all 8, but we've got the room here.
Safe community.
Boy, you guys are really good at headlines. That's impressive.
Can we do location? I mean, I know you referenced it earlier. Well, just the location, the proximity of where we are to the freeways and also to
Yeah,
businesses.
just
where we are.
Our
Yeah.
location.
Yeah,
Yeah.
our location
You don't
is
have
being a
anything
strength.
up here, do you?
No.
Okay.
Could I piggyback on that and say strong location for future growth? Our location for future growth, is that okay? No?
No.
Okay, then I'll make a new one.
Well, I tell you what, though, you've already got one up there,
Right.
John. So I want to make sure.
Wait, make sure nobody else.
Yeah, just make sure everybody else has an opportunity. And I've already let my hair down, so to speak. If we have to add more bullets, then we will. I'm not going to be just completely crazy. But I have 2 more, and I'd like to hear from people that don't have a contribution up here yet. These are all very, very leverageable strengths. Excellent. Thank you, Chief. Anybody? Yes, I know you don't have anything up here. Quality development. You don't have anything up here, right, Mike? Oh, okay. Say that again now. So you're talking about development. Can you give me the headline? Well, your colleagues will help you.
How about community involvement?
Well, that's kind of I think that's a separate line. So what I'm asking for is if we can help Mike. And I got to say the same thing to you, Martin, that I did to John. I've already got one of your contributions up here. Good contribution. Well, I got to stick to the rules, right?
Yeah,
So
I see
let's
what-
help.
I
Let's
see
help
what
him.
Mike is saying. I'm just not sure how to word it either, because all of our homes are, because we were developed at the same time, we do have, our infrastructure is not as old as some of the surrounding areas, and our home stock is not as old as some of our surrounding areas, which does make us unique. 'Cause there's not so much that's deteriorating.
And it's not just the age, but it's the requirement of the quality of
Yeah.
the product too, right? So it's meant to last a long time, so it still looks really good, even though some of it's 40 years old.
So I don't know how to word that though in a few words.
Well, let's take a look at what we have. We don't want to duplicate. So we're unique. Our town center is amazing. It's a great draw. Our parks and green spaces. I know there's several of you that rescue dogs. My wife and I have been rescuing boxers for 32 years. My favorite breed, somebody gave me the sign, is a rescue. Okay, so, but I mean, we've always walked our dogs. The trail system is like crazy cool. Strong financial base, safe community, our location and quality of life. But so the key word there was development. Were you talking about, yeah, I've actually had that on lists before. Because you've got the natural environment here. Awesome. Okay, you guys are so well behaved. I'm going to add 2 more bullets. And I've got, John has an idea. And Martin, why don't you Does anybody that doesn't have anything up here? Have something they want to share? Yes, Mark.
The size of our staff and government allows us to be more nimble and more efficient than a big bloated bureaucracy type government.
And put nimble and efficient staff, or is that outside of your line of thinking?
It's efficiency and nimble in the services we provide. We still move at glacial speeds, it feels, but it's better than a lot of cities.
John, you were the one that jumped in first, and you were very patient and kind, asking you to hold on. So I want to go to you. Do you have a different strength you'd like to see up here?
I think one I'd like to see a strength for us is we have a prime location for future growth. This area is going to grow. This whole part of Snohomish County is going to grow exponentially. So that's going to help bring some strength to our area. Not exactly going to die out here.
Okay, so we have location here. We need to distinguish between these two locations. I know this was your contribution. Would you help add to your headline so we know that it's different?
Absolutely. And that was the only reason why I said no, because you said the word growth and I was thinking more just physically the location that we are, that we're close for accessibility to the freeway in terms of, you know, Mike had shared that staying, you know, trying to get away from that bedroom community. But the fact that we're close enough that people in Microsoft or that type of work environment bought houses here. You have Boeing who bought houses here. You have Amazon people who bought houses here. So it's this nice central location in terms of freeway being a little bit north of 405. That's why I didn't want to piggyback on the growth part.
And I always look at what Councilmember Duque is saying, like our actual physical location too. Is it, for me, it's like we are easily accessible to get into the city if you want to. We're easily accessible to get out into the country and the farms. It's a prime spot for us to get everywhere easily.
You might have to use the letterbox, but I tried to spell accessible.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, great. So nice job. Yes.
Just if I could add this, because it kind of ties into absolutely everything up there, is we're really blessed to have an impeccable reputation. From the fact that you call 911, the cops show up. You want to do business with the city, it's online, you get your permit. It's clean. The paths you said, the trails and whatnot. I mean, everybody likes to walk them and run them. So
we have an impeccable reputation for all of these different reasons.
correct.
You had something else you wanted to add also. What was that? Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I knew you had a second contribution. I wanted to
Yeah,
hear.
well, since I've been here, what I've seen is, without going in the weeds about operations, is community involvement.
So we have an
we have-
engaged community.
I think so, not
Okay.
just the residents, but community, meaning even our bordering cities, I think, are not only in tune with what we're doing, we have state representatives that actually live in our community. And I've seen how council representatives, city staff, organizations that we partner with, seems to be everybody's really bought into improving. We're all kind of moving in the same direction. That's what I've seen.
Budget, I don't care. Let's start off. So you guys have this thing nailed. Really nice work. We're using the exact same 8 internal primers. You're not limited to that, but weaknesses, right? So strengths are leverageable. They can help us get us to where we want to be. Telling me I should be in Mill Creek right now. That's really good to know. Okay. I'm in the right place. So those things are leverageable.
Oh, oops.
Yeah, well, I need 4 spaces. You can move it wherever you want as long as we've got.
What about on the bottom of the screen?
Better? Does that work? Okay, so this does work.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So you'll be voting, you'll be crouching for your votes. Now weaknesses, these are things that you want to shore up, right? Improve on. You've got an incredible set of assets. So what are some of the weaknesses? And again, this is really useful for strategic development, establishing your priorities. We're going to play with the same ground rules. I've got 8 bullets. You already know I'm full of crap. I'm holding these 8. But I am here to serve you, right? You are going to have to make some trade-offs, though, because when I explain the dots, the democratic will, all of you, because we are including staff in this prioritization exercise. Only council will be prioritizing the priorities. But you may very well, it's very common that our directors will get asked questions. So, and I really appreciate that staff is contributing. Same thing. If you've got something up here, I'm going to ask you to hold off before adding anything new until we get through. So, who's going to start us off with the headline for weeks? Vince. Oh, you're not raising your hand. You've got your pen up like this. Got it. Just read that.
I got one.
And I can tell you, John loved to play poker with me. I'm terrible at poker face. Go ahead.
Lack, it's a weakness, I think for us. We lack a strategic 3 to 5 year plan for our city.
That's the headline.
I could say more about it, but I don't think we want to do that now.
Okay, I appreciate that. Microphone, sorry. Stephanie, your hand was up.
We are struggling to keep businesses full in town center.
Yes, Vince.
I think we're nearing kind of a maximum build out really of the city. That there's certainly not much more land, developable land and those sort of assets.
Yes, Mark.
We have more viable and interesting projects than we do the money to do them.
Yep. Never heard that one before. Hence the trade-offs we were just talking about. Melissa.
I was trying to wait.
That's good leadership.
City government's reputation as a weakness with residents.
Can you clarify what you mean?
Just in general, in general with the turnover with city managers, or how in articles or people just talking about, and this comes from someone who as not part of city council, just talking and listening to neighbors. And as I went walking, just hearing there's like a very much a distrust with what's happening down there in City Hall. And it's definitely something that's, it definitely was happening before COVID. And so there seems to be that kind of, and I do want to say that may have been focused on by one of our local newspapers, but a lot of people read, would read from that newspaper. And so have an impression of city council not wasting money and wasting time.
Other contributions? Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
Have a lack of or marketing communications, communications out externally to community residents.
Lack
Something-
external communications.
Yeah, something we need to improve on, possibly.
Pardon me?
Which would probably help with the city government.
Yeah, isn't it interesting how some of these are chicken and an egg? But you know what? That may be one of your strategic priorities. I mean, this is what this is designed to stimulate. Got room for a couple more. Anybody new have anything they want to contribute? Yes, Grant. Okay.
Need for what?
Does everybody know what he's
We couldn't hear him.
I couldn't hear it.
got it? He said a need for community building. Building and did you say building an identity?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Public meeting space, yeah.
Got one more bullet. Somebody new? John, you don't have anything up here, do
I
you?
do.
Oh, do you?
No, I'm right
Oh,
up there.
did you have something?
First one.
Yeah, in fact, now I realize John is the one that did this up here.
Yeah.
Exactly
so
what that is.
Talking about is a result of the lack of this.
She's saying exactly what I would like to see too. We're all on the same page.
So
Same goals.
it's okay to have chicken and an egg. Would you guys like me to add that?
Yes.
I like the way she said it, sure. Add it.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
I don't, this is your decision, not mine. And she stated it very well.
Yes.
Lack
Alignment of goals.
lack of alignment of goals between staff and council.
And the community.
Okay.
You said it for staff.
Excellent. Is there anybody that doesn't have anything up here that has something they want to share?
Try to stifle myself. So Mark Vaughn's put up there more important projects than money. And from the negative. Right now, if you guys find more money.
Can I just put then staff and money?
Yeah, or resources.
I want to make sure that the person who has this contribution says that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of boils down to that, human, financial, and physical capital. Those are the only three buckets we have resource in, right? And you're kind of pointing out, Mike, while I was trying to show that exponential, every time you add another priority, you're adding a way more work than that one priority on your staff. I'm not going to go there. I was going to start proselytizing. That's not my role here today. Anyway, so does anybody, thank you for that. Does anybody have something that they want to share that has not already put something up here?
I want to elaborate on the second bullet point because I think it's not just limited to town center. What I was going to say is our weakness is our location. I agree with all the reasons why our location is a strength, but when it comes to attracting new businesses, our location close to Linwood sucks.
Yeah.
Okay,
And so it's not just town center, the businesses that our location inhibits our ability to attract retail citywide. It makes it more of a challenge.
sure. And you can have the same thing on the strengths and the weaknesses list as long as they're for different reasons. So who had this?
Definitely.
So are you with him? Do you want to leave this the way it is and then me add a bullet? It sounds like you're both saying the same thing, and what I'm hearing Brian saying is that it's bigger than just town center.
And mine is more focused. I think the reason why we're having problems is because of our location. I think hers is just more general. We're struggling to keep the businesses filled, the spaces filled.
So can you give me your bullet? Let's get it up there because I see.
Location, location, location.
Do you study marketing? That's pretty good. Well, that's what
I'm
they
in
say
real
about.
estate. I'm in real estate.
There you go. No, seriously, give me a bullet.
Does it have to do with competitiveness? Is that what you're referring to? That it's just hard to compete against Linwood?
It's hard to compete with it. No, our location makes it challenging to attract new business.
That's a headline. Thank you. That was your first one up there, isn't it?
It is.
Good, great. I'm glad that we got it there. Is there anybody else that doesn't have something up here that has something they want to share? Okay, Martin?
A lack of transportation
Okay,
options until we get the green or the orange, those. Light rail starts coming through a number of years. I think until then that may be a limitation that impacts economic.
great. Since I opened it up, because you already had one up here, right, Martin? Yeah, that means I need to open it up. Is there anybody else that already has a contribution that is just, pining to share something up here? I see two. I'm going to start with the first hand, John.
I have two weaknesses. I'm not sure how we want to bullet them, but one is we've had significant employee turnover, and that's led to a loss of institutional knowledge higher than I think we've ever experienced. We've lost a lot of employees. Basically, we have a really new staff.
Right.
And
I think that's part of what Melissa was saying in terms of the reputation.
well, then the other one is my weakness that tied to that was lack of or poorly managed or poorly understood employee management program. We have not been following the strict guidelines of.
Which one's more important? Which one's the
Well,
more
both are the
dangerous
same
weakness?
thing. They
Because
have-
I've got Vince here. I want to honor his contribution. Then we're gonna call it a night on weaknesses. But I'll take one from you, John, and I'll take one from you, Vince, and then we're gonna move on to our external lists. I tell you what, while you're thinking about how you want to put those together, maybe you can come up with a headline that marries those two. Go ahead, Vince, while John is thinking about that.
Thank you. I think being landlocked hurts us a little bit too. We all talk about growth and expanding the footprint or the economic footprint. And again, kind of goes to Brian's point a little bit, being landlocked kind of limits us. Yeah, we're not going to grow. we're not gonna get it. We're gonna be a little city, so we kind of gotta recognize our.
Otherwise, so this is another way of saying this, or is it different?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay, and the reason that I want to cross out synonyms is I don't want you spreading your votes over two common concepts.
I think it goes back to what Brian said, because I think our location makes it hard to attract businesses partially because we're landlocked. I feel like those go hand in hand.
We're not landlocked. We have an artificial boundary that's drawn on a map around us, and we have the ability, if we want, to expand that line. We can expand the boundaries of the city. We're not landlocked.
Well, I tell you what,
can
since
annex.
what he was saying here was pretty much a different way of saying this, let's leave that there. Again, you're going to get a chance to vote on this, and I'm going to pull this out. Are you okay, Vince? Because great, thank you, sir. Okay, John, bring us home.
Mine has nothing to do with city government reputation. That's totally different. That has to do with people wanting to come work here for the reputation, what they hear about the city.
Uh-huh.
I'm talking about the way we manage our employees. And we've been having some inconsistencies, lack
Of structure in managing our
of structure and
employees.
management of their employees.
Is that, you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And make sure that word consistency is in there. Lack of consistent management structure. Sometimes we do it. About 100%.
Okay, great. So now we're going to move. Thoughts happen. It'll be really clear what the collective priorities are. Okay, next term. These are opportunities and threats. Opportunities out of the four is the most difficult. And I'll tell you why. Is because the vast majority of people that do SWOT define something as, oh, be an opportunity if we did this. If you're using a pronoun, we, our, us, then that's not an uncontrollable opportunity. It's a strategy. So I will help you reframe it. The point is that we want to literally identify uncontrollable strategies. Unpack these. So some of you have done this a lot. Test analysis really standard. It's also called standard, but it's the uncontrollable side of SWOT. We're talking political, we're talking big, local, state, federal. We're talking legislative, regulated, adjudicated, administrative. We're talking everything to do with politics. Economic. That purposely says economic. Economic is bigger than economy. Economy is one thing that goes under economic. The feds did they do 2.5 or did they do 5.0 today? The Fed met today. It'll be the first raise we've had in a gazillion years. Okay, I won't get us off track. Economic, economic can be, the Fed, it can be anything that drives economic conditions. Social. This is social cultural. Before the pandemic and just all the things around social justice, the things we've been dealing with the last 2 years, before any of that happened, I used 9/11 as the example for something that changed our culture. I could no longer run into the airport 15 minutes before my flight was about to take off and get on a plane. But you take a look at what we've been through with the pandemic and all the comorbidities that are part of that. And everything that's been going on with social justice. There is a lot happening here under social. Technology. So this is technology, both high tech and low tech that we have. It's what we've got. This is emerging technology that can either help us or hurt us. If it can help us, it's an opportunity. If it hurts us, clearly it's a threat. And then customer, consumer, you can change those to, residents or business owners. We're not B2B, so I'm not going to explain that. Competitors, and you may have competition outside of other cities. There could be other competing factors. And industry, this is just, industry, just think of that as local government. Think of that as municipalities. So those are the external primers for our opportunities and threats. And the rest of our ground rules are actually the same. And if you state a strategy, we'll do what we can as a group to help you reframe that into an opportunity. Who is going to start us off? By the way, sometimes the external lists are shorter than the internal lists because they're less apparent. One other little thing is that this isn't just today. We're looking at it over the next year. And the reason I say that is the first exercise on the 22nd will be Council's 2022 priorities. Okay. So when we're doing the external side, we are looking at a little bit past just today. And we're only identifying things that we think are likely to happen. And just like with our internal, what we're really concerned about is documenting things that would have the greatest impact on our city. So granted, opportunity is a little bit more challenging. John?
Create long-term ongoing revenue generating programs for the future health of our city.
That's a great strategy. It's not an opportunity. You're stating something you want done. That's a beautifully worded strategy. An opportunity is something you don't have control over. A strategy is something that you do. Let me give you an example of an opportunity. An opportunity might be, I don't know, the earning power of millennials. And last year they actually passed the baby boomers in terms of being our #1 demographic. So let's see if we can help John turn what is clearly a strategy into an uncontrollable opportunity.
How about revenue generating programs? That's an opportunity.
Okay, well, it sounds like a strategy. Give me an example of a revenue producing opportunity.
Expanded passport services,
Internal,
TSA,
controllable.
TSA services, daycare centers.
I want to hear from, go ahead. Well, certainly we could do that. That's a pretty micro individual service. And if you want it up there, we can put it up there. But we don't even need to say take advantage because that assumes it's a controllable strategy. Increasing demand for passports. Now, see, that is stated as an opportunity. It does not assume we're going to act on it. That's the key point between a difference of an opportunity and a strategy. Yes, Vince. I'm not abandoning you, John. I'm just.
Yeah, because I want this to be new revenue generating ideas.
Right. Give me an opportunity for a new revenue generating opportunity that is not controllable. Because all three of the ones you mentioned, we all have control over.
Well, I think what Laurel was trying to say, and I think it is a key opportunity. For instance, travel outside the United States.
Oh, absolutely.
That requirement, border controls and 9/11, all that stuff, created an opportunity for people to figure out ways to buy the documents.
So what about the way?
That goes into the passports.
Right. So what about the way I positioned it? I used opportunity language rather than take advantage. That's assuming that we would act on it. You can't assume that you're going to act on these. What I stated was the increasing demand for passports, which is a real condition.
Yeah.
So does that?
So I think that's what one of the things that John was trying to talk about with revenue. She was trying to translate.
Got
I
it.
think that they
Well,
put that up there.
what we're talking about is an opportunity. It's uncontrollable and we can benefit from it. I saw other hands up. Vince had a hand up. I got hands all over the place. Go ahead.
So if I'm reading this, if I'm understanding this correctly, so opportunities that exist, like to me, a tremendous opportunity that exists would be like our sports park, recent purchases of property and creating a niche within the community, sports complex, competitive sports and whatnot. So I think that would be one of our opportunities.
So can you state it as, so when it's one of our opportunities, that tells me it's a strategy. See, and this is why I said this is the most difficult one. Opportunities are external beyond your control. If somebody is gonna build something here that is, outside of our control, do you have an idea, Stephanie?
I do. There's an overall increase in demand for satellite office space. Now that the pandemic is winding down, businesses are starting to migrate to having their workforce work in smaller spaces
Yeah.
and doing hotel sharing. So to me, that's the overall the markets where there's more demand for small office space. That's not something that we are doing.
Right.
That's something that's
That
just
is
out there in the
stated as a
community.
perfect opportunity. More demand for office space.
Rem-
Remote workspace. Thank you. I like the way you put it better. I want to go back. I wanted to get to the hands that were up here. So I see it. Don't forget it. I kind of want to go back to John's thing because we said we would try to help turn strategies into opportunity language. And so if there is a different way, well, this is a revenue stream for us, right? I have no idea if it's low margin, high margin, if it really has a big impact on the city P&L, I just don't know. But based on what we've been talking about, does that help at all, John?
No, because I look at other cities that have been creating revenue generating ideas for their cities.
Right, and that's a strategy, and
but
we're
they
gonna
have-
get there
but
on the
to get
22nd.
there, they've had to sit down and really put together a group that is dedicated to just that focus. They don't know what the answer is. They don't know if it's passports or, there's a hundred
Right.
different things.
No,
So the opportunity is to say, we have to come up with ways to generate X amount of revenue for our city on an ongoing basis.
and that will be a great contribution when we get into the 2022 or the longer range strategic priorities. Because you use the word we, everything you said is internal. And I'm not saying it's wrong. We're not there yet. So you're going to love the 22nd because that's exactly what the entire day is, to do exactly that. Establish these things that are going to make a difference. But this is a SWOT analysis. We're not getting into strategy yet. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to kind of hold the line. Yes. Well, hold
So,
it.
no, I'm not,
go-
I don't have a question.
Oh.
So maybe you can give me an example to help me understand this better,
Sure.
because to me, opportunities, I mean, that's what I assume we're trying to do is pull the opportunities out of the air that exist. And you're saying the ones that don't exist or we're unaware of?
No. So here are two great examples of opportunities that are uncontrollable. You can, and they're not written with the assumption that you're going to seize on either one of them. We didn't talk about us. There's no pronouns in there. Increasing demand for passports. It's a real condition. Okay. You can choose to take action on that or not. This one, more demand for remote workspace. It's out of our control, right? So I know you guys are chomping at the bit to start doing strategies, and that's what the 22nd is all about.
And I don't mean to debate you. I guess it's all controllable if you really think about it. I mean, we changed the zoning to make more available workspace.
But that's the strategy.
Right. No,
to
I understand.
seize.
That's why I'm confused.
So what you did is just give us a perfect example of how to take action on one of the opportunities.
The example of that, Vince, would be the opportunity is the orange line that's coming. The strategy for dealing with that is possibly changing zoning in areas where we could take advantage of the orange line coming.
Regional investment. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Sense.
think
Then
that
I'm gonna go to
that
Melissa.
captures it better because that captures the coming light rail, it captures the green line that's already here, and it captures the orange line.
Regional expansion. Have been so patient.
Well, no,
Thank
she
you.
has. She's been very patient.
But
I keep saying, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to come to you.
Yeah.
No, I'm finally
Well,
coming to you.
Well, because I do have one and I'll wait for mine later. It was with Vince's that it was when you said your thing that made me go, oh, I think I get it. And then you raised your hand for the demand for remote workspace. And so I felt comfortable. So for my opinion, it would be because of COVID, a demand for more outdoor spaces for children to do outdoor activities that aren't inside a classroom because we couldn't be indoors.
Right.
And there were a lot of people looking for, the first available sports. It was, can I put my kids in something that's outdoor? So I think that's the uncontrollable. We had nothing to do. And then the strategy is what fields, what places, what are the things that we can do? So I guess
So both of you just put SWOT analysis,
right.
Strategic development together. And that's all we're trying to do. You remember I said earlier, all we're doing today is laying the foundation for the generative work that you're all going to do on the 22nd.
Yeah. So my recommendation for Vince in terms of what to put up there is a demand for more outdoor fields, courses, playgrounds,
How about
something
a pent-up demand?
pent up demand.
A pent-up demand for more outdoor activities.
Mhm.
Does that help?
Yeah, that's exactly it. But don't we have control over all of that? I mean, deciding.
You can't control, you didn't make the
Control the
pandemic.
demand.
Yeah, so exactly. External forces beyond our city made that happen, and it's happening across the entire continent, not just here.
Maybe the way to frame it is demand for recreational and community facilities.
That's very
Capture-
different than what Melissa said.
No,
What's that? Right. So
And I
I'd
was
like
only
to,
saying that for Vince, like, because he was talking about the ball fields. and
Right.
So I was just
so a
thinking,
pent-up demand for more outdoor activities. I got a nod from him.
but this does not count as mine. So when I raise my hand again later, just want to make sure I have not put one up there.
Well, what Melissa did is what we all said we would do, and that is we'd help each other change a strategy into, and I'm gonna come back to you, John. I'm gonna save a bullet for you because I know there's something really important there. And no, I'm serious.
that has bad connotations.
Yeah. There's a lot of people up here that'd like to save a bullet for me.
That's not the way I'm talking. Tell him I was kidding. I know. Bullets.
Or you're the only one in here with a gun.
Notice I got
I
away
have
from
a
him.
deal though. We have a deal. You ain't gonna do it.
I got away from him very quickly. Okay, so you've got one?
I don't, but I know someone in this room is raising a virtual yellow hand wanting to ask, isn't the federal ARPA funds an opportunity that's been thrown amongst us? We've been
Well-
given $5.6 million from the federal government out of the blue with the ARPA relief funds. Isn't that an opportunity?
Of course it is. We didn't make it happen.
We did
We're
not make
taking
it happen.
advantage of it.
So that's Barb's. ARPA, ARPA funds.
I just finished over the weekend, I did City of Federal Way, and they were just all over this. What, new stuff? You sure you don't want to jump in? Well, you don't have one up here. You don't need to wait. We'll help you.
Because I think you could see, because you said something earlier about.
I'm going to
how-
have John help you.
Okay, John. So earlier.
No, I'm
you said-
serious.
No. You said we couldn't have something that was a strength and a weakness unless it was very distinct.
I said you could have them on
As long
the
as they
same
were-
thing as long as they were for different
So
reasons.
this is where I was thinking of something
You would never have
uncontrollable.
something from the internal list and on the external.
Right.
And vice versa though.
So this is my weird, it's because I was thinking about, you were saying political, and I was thinking about the legislature for housing requirements. And like the 2050 plan, like those kind of things, how we don't have any, unless we run for those things, we don't have control over it. And so we then have to, like, that's something that's sent to us, but I don't know. I think some people would assume that's a potentially a threat versus an opportunity. I just didn't know if it fit here or,
Ask your colleagues.
yeah,
But
that's why I'm
I'll-
looking at you guys.
I had it down as a threat.
Yeah,
I had it as a threat.
see?
Yeah.
So that's
And
why
it's
I'm-
okay to have it on both lists. John, don't forget that. So we'll start off with you on the threat.
Yeah, I
So-
think it's both.
Okay, so give me the short headline for the opportunity.
See, and I can only think of it as I, not me personally, but in my head, I'm only thinking of it as a threat that it'll take away kind of,
Well, great.
Our-
Let's
our
put it
current-
on the threat list.
yeah.
So
I
put
just
it,
can't think of it as an opportunity, but, sorry. Oh, okay, something different.
As an opportunity, though, isn't that plan? Don't we think it will bring more people, more
Mhm.
consumers? So that it kind of goes along with that regional investment in the high capacity transit.
Mhm.
somebody
There's
help her put it
requirements
out.
around it.
Does anybody
Or
see what
somebody
she's
help
talking?
me.
Let me ask a question. Does anybody see what Melissa is talking about as an opportunity? Because I've heard several of you say, I see it as a threat. And what I'm thinking is, let's just put it as a threat unless you have a specific headline that would turn it into an opportunity.
Well, I think if we thought of it as increasing consumer power into our city, that would be an
Then
opportunity.
state it as an opportunity headline.
Ability to increase consumer volume. Right, it's already up there.
Current housing
Here-
crisis.
here-
creates
here's another
opportunity.
way.
Development requirement of density.
So
That's the
Mike, do you
enabler.
actually have an opportunity bullet?
Not much. Yes.
Whole bunch of policies. The opportunity is there.
That's right. The external factor is the growth that we can't control. The opportunity is how we plan to deal with that growth.
That's the strategy.
Housing crisis creates a growth
Yeah, that's the
opportunity.
strategy. Well, so we can get into that on the 22nd. I'm still,
But why isn't that an opportunity?
well, the
I
first
think
thing you
that's what- I
said,
think that's what,
the first thing you said was an opportunity. And then you stated it as a strategy. When you said we can, that's controllable.
no, I said how we plan, not we can, how we plan.
You said the word we, how we plan for
Plan
it.
is control.
Oh, I see.
Vince,
How about maybe saying the current or perceived housing crisis creates a growth opportunity?
that's stated as an opportunity. That's not stated as a strategy. Just give me the first part of it. You might not need to say the second part of it.
So the perceived housing crisis then? I mean, isn't that what kind of, I would guess, spawned her comment?
Is that what you were talking about?
I think it does. So I was coming from more of a, yes, I would say in terms of just growth. I don't know. It's so hard. I still see it as a threat. And so I don't
Tell
see
you
it as
what,
an opportunity.
right now we're high centered and that's
Yeah.
okay. Happens all the time. But this is what a facilitator does. We say, we're moving on to the next topic and we'll, before we vote, if somebody can, give a real lucid headline, we'll do it. So let's just go on to somebody else. Thank you all. You guys are so easy to work with. Yes, John.
So I just rewrote all of mine.
I just give me one.
Just one.
The one that's most important to you, the one that you think will actually, if the opportunity were seized, would have the greatest positive impact on our city. Look
A
at,
performance space and civic center. A combined performance space and civic center.
strategy.
No, it's a thing. It's not strategy. That's a
Where's
thing.
the thing going to come from?
Where's the thing gonna come from? We're gonna build it.
Right, strategy. That's my
The
point.
opportunity is the lack of services in that area.
Well, didn't we capture
You-
that
you
right
need to
here?
Articulate there's a demand that's beyond our, which that is your premise. I
So the
believe.
opportunity is demand, demand for a performance space and civic center.
It is not being met by any other private sector.
An unmet demand. Okay, so now that's opportunity language. Unmet demand for, just give me, you know, kind
A
of the.
civic, combined civic center and performance center.
That's kind of where I was going with the fields and whatnot. in that area.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
that's
I guess
kinda what I
guess-
thought.
No, I guess I'm saying that's why I'm still a little shaky.
Okay. We got a room for a couple more bullets. Yeah, do you have anything up here, Martin?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't know if this is one, but how about the number of the vacancies that we have in the city of Mill Creek, business vacancies? Would that be an opportunity?
well, it would certainly be something you want to build a strategy on because our tax base doesn't love the fact we've got a bunch of vacant areas. So I guess I'm not sure. What's causing the vacancies?
High rents.
COVID?
COVID. Okay.
Changing business
Well,
structures.
COVID, yeah, so well, usually COVID ends up as a threat, not an opportunity. Can somebody help Martin give me a opportunity headline? You could literally say the pandemic has created more vacancies.
How about increased tax base by filling vacancies? By filling commercial vacancies?
It's even your team knows that that's a strategy. And it's probably a wonderful strategy, but it's not.
Isn't that an opportunity?
No, you're using something, John, that's controllable. Increase the tax base to deal, right?
By filling the vacancies.
Right, it's a strategy. You're actually taking an action. This isn't about actions. These are things that out there that are outside of our control that we may want to choose to seize.
So commercial vacancies equal increased tax base?
Commercial vacancies. So you've got this on the opportunity list. I can think of 6 different strategies you could come up to deal with that. And I'm sure you can too. So that's what this is designed to do, is to stimulate strategic thinking. I warned you, it's the toughest deal. We got room for one more. Yes.
Get me going. I want to try another one.
Well, hold on just a second.
You pointed at me.
I did.
Yeah.
It was a mistake.
Oh, now, hey, give me another bullet then.
Is there anybody here that has an idea that they haven't shared? Does anybody not? Let's hear it.
No, no.
Come on, chief.
Right.
Funding from outside sources. So in that.
So turn it.
City historically. Done well.
So turn it
That's
into
a
an opportunity.
strategy.
You actually said "we" 4 times in your statement. Say that again.
State and federal dollars.
The availability of state and federal dollars. Well, isn't that the same as this?
No, it's,
That's one class.
that's.
Grants are different. Grants are different.
Well, it's still federal money. I mean,
But
I
he's
agree with you.
focusing on grants.
Why, aren't we talking about the money? Well, right, but you're turning the strategy. We're going to
This
keep
is gonna be
opportunity.
strategy.
Opportunity is,
Federal and state grants.
well, they printed a lot of money.
Say grant fund, just grant fund.
That's what happened.
What did you say, Brian?
Just grant funding.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just grant funding. Not federal and state, that's different.
Just grant. provide
Maybe we
funding
could have
for it.
Stan write more tickets.
That's a strategy. I'm gonna give you one bullet.
Actually, you
just
know,
with your
it's
name
two,
on it.
it's two different ones because there's
John?
different there's buckets.
John, you
There's
gotta give me the
opportunities or
one that's
buckets.
most important.
Opportunities are buckets. There are grants out there. That's a bucket. That's a bucket of money. And then another opportunity is at the county and the state level for awareness. Somebody else brought this up earlier at identifying the state and county financial opportunities with our legislators and our county officials. That's a different bucket of money. That's different than grants.
It is, but you
So you
stated
put
it
two
at
buckets into
strategy.
one place there. Those are relationship based. That isn't like, you're talking about awareness at our county and state level of what we're doing
right up here.
and what we need from them.
You know,
I guess it's a proactive and a reactive. Let me put it to you that way. With the federal and the state and the county level, I should take federal, I'm looking at federal up there, but at the county and the state level, we have legislators and county executives, councilmen that we have relationships with.
Right.
That we have not been we could be better at, and people here have said this, we could be better at proactively.
how about this? Other government jurisdictions are more open to collaboration or relationships because everything you said is still strategy.
Let me try and explain though first. Then
You got to do it fast, John. We're running
Okay,
out of time.
well, okay, well, it's kind of an
Yeah, 30 seconds.
kind of important semantic here for you to understand is that there is a proactive and a reactive. The grants are reactive. You understand that one, right? Okay. We have not done a good. Yeah, that's an opportunity. Grants. They're out there if you choose to find them and act on them. The federal and the state and the county is a different opportunity with a different way of capitalizing on it. So there's two different opportunities here, two different strategies. Well, I think the chief did a great job when he said identifying grant opportunities. That was most important of all. No.
Yeah.
No.
To identify them.
All right. Yeah, okay, never mind.
And-
Never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
We are just absolutely
And-
stuck.
And it is,
We're going
it's
to
a
9:30.
strategy to build the relationships with our representatives in order to look for the funding, which is a strategy that we do and that some of us are doing. So
Right.
it's
And
not.
you
it
guys
is a
are
strategy
gonna
that we're
love the
working on.
22nd because the 22nd is taking all this
I haven't
information
seen it.
and deciding what your priority actions are. So we need to move on. We're running out of time and we haven't done threats. Are we okay to move off of this or does somebody that hasn't shared something has a very specific opportunity headline they want to share? Yes, Mark.
Very quickly. I've been listening to you. I think I understand where you're trying to go and I'm going to try and word it. There are folks around us that are not a part of any city at this time. They're unincorporated.
Right.
And they would be open and maybe enthusiastic, I think, about considering joining us. We may not do that, but there are communities around us that would like to be a part of a city that are not a part of a city.
How about this?
And
There is
we
greater
might be on the-
acceptance of city annexation. That's an opportunity. Doesn't assume we're taking, does that kind of get to your point?
And I'm not saying we should do it. I'm not saying we would do it. I'm saying it is out there.
Be in tomorrow's paper.
It's much more important.
If you decide you want
Happened last time I
to
brought it
be, at some point, if we said, you know what, we want to double our park space, then you say, where do we annex? Because you can't do it otherwise, or we spend tons of money and bulldoze something. But I mean, annexation could, depending on what agenda we might have later, an annexation might be the only way to meet that, including some revenue opportunities of annexing like a business. And we may say, no, we don't want that. We want to stay exactly how we are. We like it how we are. This is what the citizens want. I'm good with that.
Okay, we gotta do threats. We gotta go deep. Now, here's good news. Threats is easy. You will not have problems with threats. I'm telling you, what we've experienced is not at all unusual. When people think of opportunities, they're stating strategies. That is not a SWOT analysis.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm hoping. And you know what? There is some gold up there. Okay, threats. Wasn't,
You need your microphone.
But somebody, you had the threat.
Yeah, I'll do that first one. It's, I guess, housing changes in housing requirements from the legislature.
Density requirements.
Yeah, density, changes in density requirement. Thank you, everyone. If we want people to live and move into Mill Creek, but they can't, the people who are working in Mill Creek can't afford to live in Mill Creek. So that was where I would have gone with the affordability.
So
but
are
there
you
was a second
talking
tab.
about adding to this, or is this a separate bullet? I'm hearing your conversation, but I didn't hear a decision.
Yeah. Yes, right.
Lack of affordability.
Yeah. Thank you. Absolutely. Yes, yeah. Yes, in terms of threat. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
To maybe piggyback on pandemic, but it's a little more significant, is government overreach is a big threat. I think what
Okay.
we've seen with mandates and proclamations and decrees, it could really hamper and fatally injure business, communities, et cetera.
What did you say? Government? Did you say
Governmental overreach.
overreach? Thank you. Aren't threats easier than opportunities? Yes, Mark.
Thank you. Yes, they are easier. I think a threat that's going to impact us is the very low unemployment and the job market being so competitive. Our best resources are human resources. And there's a whole lot of companies out there that want our talent and want to pay them a lot more than we can afford to pay.
Coaching.
And we're at the
Very competitive
beginning of
job
this.
market. Does that kind of capture your?
Yes, this is going to be difficult for us to keep up with when people come to Laurel and say, I'll give you X. And she says, no, and I'll give you Y. She says, no, and I'll give you Z. All right, I'm in. And now I'm gone. Because that's how it's going.
Yeah, and it's across every industry.
Don't say that.
And, the whole police thing, trying to hire cops, it's not going to get better soon.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of baggage underneath that. I mean, there's a
Yeah,
lot.
it's complicated.
There's a lot of stuff there that is causing it. It's not one thing.
Right.
I get it. Brian.
This goes to the weakness that Melissa identified with our perceived perception, and that's social media and misinformation. A perfect example are the people in our community who post before they think. There's one who had their son's car broken into, and apparently she thought that we should have had a police officer planted out in front of her house to make sure that no one broke into the car, and she starts ranting about what a shit show the city is these days. I don't know.
Shit show, huh?
Does anybody new have a contribution up here?
Dan should put something out there about the environment for law enforcement. Oh, I don't know. I think the whole
So
major
that,
job is-
so you'd like to get something more specific for law enforcement?
Social media misinformation is anywhere.
No, I'm sorry. I'm talking about I have my finger in the wrong
But that's
bullet.
about any kind of job. You can't hire
Is it competitive job market or is it wage inflation?
Competition for talent right now is fierce.
Yeah.
There's a lack of talent.
I
There's
tell
a
you what,
lack of
let's
bodies.
not wordsmith this. Let's just kind of get through. As long as you guys are clear on what a very competitive job market means, then you'll know whether you want to vote on it or not. So back to this police thing.
So here's what I think, one of the things we talked about, we think we're a safe community. But you guys are having a hard time maintaining a safe community. Because there's a threat guys are getting handcuffed with what you can and can't do. And so I think the whole police and what they're allowed to do, it's a threat to us doing their job. I don't know how to police that right now. Yeah.
Unintended
consequences from police reforms.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
I know.
That's what that says.
Not my first. Are you cool with that?
I don't know that I have a job, and that's my thing. That, although we are struggling through some reform times, and but corrections are being moved, and collaborative work is being done, and so I'm in favor of that. I know that it has been a weakness, but in the recent few weeks, we've had some tremendous growth, and I'm optimistic that things will change, and we'll be back to being able to provide the service that our department wants to provide. But I think that
You're okay if it's not up here.
I'm okay if that's
Okay.
not up there as a threat.
Let's just keep the thing moving. I really want to get through this exercise. Do you have one up here yet, Brian?
I do.
Let me get, you don't, do you?
No, I don't have something up there yet. I want to say something about how consumer behavior has changed. We have no control over it, but it's impacted, we have less businesses in the town center. People weren't shopping locally anymore. They all turned to Amazon.
Can you kind of put that under a headline umbrella?
Consumer behavior changes.
Changing nature of retail.
Okay. Consumer
Changes in
retail,
consumer shopping behavior.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds fine.
That's actually helped us a little bit in the way that they did the sales tax redistribution. So we benefited a lot more than a city like Linwood with a mall.
Oh, just because it's up there doesn't mean it's going to get a lot of votes, but I do want to finish this. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about inflation or the
I mean, that's one word.
global repercussions of war.
Yes.
I did remember you had something up and I think he already had something, so I got to go to you.
The voters don't approve the fire annexation,
Voters don't approve of what?
our fire annexation.
Oh, I get it.
It's a threat. If the voters don't approve it, we've got some tough decisions to make that impact a lot of the other stuff we're talking about.
It's a threat to business as usual, but if that's the will of the citizens, our job is to implement it.
So I perceive that as a threat.
I mean, they will need to understand the cost because there'll be a tremendous cost. But if the citizens say, this is how we want you to do things, and it's going to cost us a lot more, and we're going to get less service in certain areas, so be it.
I don't disagree, but I still think it's a threat.
I got it up there.
I'm just trying to figure out what is the threat? What's the threat to?
It's a threat to a lot of the other opportunities and stuff we're being able to take advantage to if we're having to take the money that otherwise would be put towards those to carry out the voters' will.
John, didn't you have a threat?
It's covered. I'm fine.
Is it covered up there? Okay. I remember the conversation we had. Any other last bullets before we wrap this exercise and go on to our prioritization process? We good to move on to the next step in the exercise? Okay.
Oh, you're moving paper. I very much hope the fire contract annexation passes.
Amen.
So you do a SWOT analysis, you do it internal and external, right? But when you prioritize,
Thank you, Melissa. When you prioritize, we're doing it based on assets and liabilities. So you all have 4 strips of 3. You're going to use a 1, a 2, and a 3 on each of these 4 SWOT categories. You can't put 2 1s on one and no 1 on something else.
You have to do a 1, a 2, and a 3 on each, okay? You cannot put more than 1 dot on a bullet. You have to choose 3 separate bullets. There is no gaming the system here. Okay. Now, there's going to be a ton, we've got 12 of you who are going to do this. So what I'm going to do is divide the room up and have half of you start here, half of you start there. It'll speed things up. Another part that's going to be really helpful for me to tabulate correctly is if you put your dot directly underneath the bullet. When people are all over the place, I can't tabulate when you're down here. We're going to go from left to right. The dots are going to go underneath the bullet. That way my tabulation will be correct. So any questions about voting?
Just that each dot is worth the same amount?
No.
No?
Oh, well, I typically don't share that until the end, but since you brought it up, the dots are weighted. Your number 1 dot is your first choice and it counts as 3 points. The number 2 dot counts as 2 and your number 3 dot counts as 1. It is a weighted process. Since somebody brought it up, I usually don't explain that because it confuses people, but it's your first, second, and third choice. First place vote, second place, third place, just like the numbers say. Any other questions?
Can you put more than 1 dot on 1 bullet? No, I'm just
I
kidding.
already covered that. Vince, are you messing with me?
He's eating the
You're
dots.
carrying, aren't you? Yeah, always. Okay, I'm not going to argue with you. Everybody but Vince is not, well, no, we have to spread it over 3 separate bullets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask council to start on the assets, and I'm going to ask staff to start on the liabilities. In fact, go ahead and vote. Everybody's clear on the process. And then as soon as you're done voting, then just switch sides. Everybody. Other than people follow instructions, vote like that. You guys are all very polite. Did you, which dot did you already place? The 1, 2, or 3? Well, think about what the most important thing is. Second, the change the factors. And I'm going to ask, as soon as you have voted on all 4 of the SWOT sheets, if you could take a seat, that would be my clue. Yeah, yeah, as soon as you're done, please go back to your seat, because that'll be my clue. Oh, wait, see, yeah, that's gaming system. Oh, how many dots do you have? So go back to your.
You selling your dots?
The finance department, I get it. Your address.
We've got more people coming.
You struggled.
You placed your first.
Can't decide.
Dot on that sheet, correct? Go back
I
and
mean,
look.
it could be.
It's like, which one is one that's most important?
Seeing that as a strategy can be very important. I was confused. It's not happening right now.
If you annexed and they expanded diversity in and
You
then that
needed
could
some
be.
felts.
I agree. Then you can throw. Then you have inclusive, and it's not impacting.
Yeah.
Where everyone's like, don't stop.
Here's what they do
I
here.
don't know. I'm starting to talk to Martin about that.
Annexations. So you can't just go down like.
Okay, excellent. Nice job, everybody. So I will put this into a document and I'm going to have it ready for all of you in 20 seconds. So we're actually done and we're done on time. So I'm sorry that I come across as a benevolent dictator, but if I allow the rules to change in the middle, then I'm really doing you a disservice. And I get that opportunities are difficult. Anyway, great work. We're done. I'm going to turn it over to our mayor and our mayor pro tem to share any closing remarks.
No, I think,
You're not mad that we're going to get out early. are
no,
you?
I don't think anyone's disappointed. And we said if we get done early, we adjourn early. So it was a good first night. I thought it was a productive discussion. The only last item of business we have to do is, should we go blue or gray next week, Vince? So with that, we'll be adjourned for the evening. We'll see each other next week.
Now you can say what you really thought.
Oh, I know, right?
Corny stuff. Okay.
Not losing any of our good people, are we?